These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabby.com. Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabby.com/Tom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teethhealth.com, code TOM. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code TOM. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM.
reading today from a book by David Sanger, the Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times national security reporter. The title of the book is The Perfect Weapon: War, Sabotage, and Fear in the Cyber Age. We're reading from the preface. A year into Donald J. Trump's presidency, his defense secretary, Jim Mattis, sent the new commander-in-chief a startling recommendation. With nations around the world threatening to use cyber weapons to bring down America's power grids, cell phone networks, and water supplies, Trump should declare that he's ready to take extraordinary steps to protect the country. If any nation hit America's critical infrastructure with a devastating strike, even a non-nuclear one, it should be forewarned that the United States might reach for a nuclear weapon in response. Like most things in Washington, the recommendation leaked immediately. Excuse me. Many declared it a crazy idea and wild overkill. While nations had turned their cyber weapons against each other dozens of times in recent years, no attack had yet proven to cost a human life, at least directly. Not the American attacks on Iran's and North Korea's weapon programs, not the North Korean attacks on American banks, a famed Hollywood studio, and the British healthcare system, not the Russian attacks in Ukraine, Europe, and then at the core of American democracy. That streak of luck was certain to end soon, but why should Donald Trump or any of his successors take the huge risk of escalating a cyber war by going nuclear? The Pentagon's recommendation, it turned out, was the prelude to other proposals delivered to a president who values toughness and America first to use the nation's powerful cyber weapons far more aggressively. But it was also a reminder of how quickly the fear of devastating cyber attacks has moved from the stuff of science fiction and die-hard movies to the center of American defense strategy. Just over a decade before, in 2007, cyber attacks were missing entirely from the global threat assessment that intelligence agencies prepare each year for Congress. Terrorism topped that list, along with other post-9/11 concerns. Now that hierarchy has been reversed. For several years, a variety of cyber threats, ranging from a paralyzing strike on the nation's cities to a sophisticated effort to undercut public confidence in its institutions, has appeared as the nation's #1 threat on the list. Not since the Soviets tested the bomb in 1949 had the perception of threats facing the nation been revised so quickly. Yet Mattis, who had risen to 4-star status in a career focused in the Middle East, feared that the 2 decades spent chasing al-Qaeda and ISIS around the globe had distracted America from its most potent challenges. Great power competition, not terrorism, is now the primary focus of U.S. national security, he said in early 2018. America's, quote, competitive edge has eroded in every domain of warfare, including the newest one, cyberspace. The nuclear strategy he handed Trump gave voice to an inchoate fear among many in the Pentagon that cyber attacks posed a threat unlike any other, one that we had completely failed to deter. The irony is that the United States remains the world's stealthiest, most skillful cyber power, as the Iranians discovered when their centrifuges spun out of control, and the North Koreans suspected as their missiles fell out of the sky. The gap is closing. Cyber weapons are so cheap to develop and so easy to hide that they've proven irresistible. And American officials are discovering that in a world in which almost everything is connected, phones, cars, electrical grids, and satellites, everything can be disrupted, if not destroyed. For several years, the thinking inside the Pentagon was that only nations with nuclear weapons could threaten America's existence. Now that assumption is in doubt. In almost every classified Pentagon scenario for how a future confrontation with Russia and China, or even Iran and North Korea might play out, the adversary's first strike against the United States would include a cyber barrage aimed at civilians. It would fry power grids, stop trains, silence cell phones, and overwhelm the internet. In the worst-case scenarios, food and water would begin to run out. Hospitals would turn people away. Separated from their electronics and thus their connections, Americans would panic and turn against one another. The Pentagon is now planning for this scenario because it knows many of its own war plans open with similarly paralyzing cyber attacks against our adversaries, reflecting new strategies to try to win wars before a shot is fired. Glimpses of what this would look like have leaked out in recent years, thanks partly to Edward J. Snowden, partly because of a mysterious group called the Shadow Brokers, suspected of close links to Russian intelligence, to obtain terabytes of data containing many of the tools that the National Security Agency used to breach foreign computer networks. It didn't take long for some of those stolen cyber weapons to be shot back at America and its allies. in attacks whose bizarre-sounding names, like WannaCry, suddenly appeared in the headlines every week. Yet the secrecy surrounding these programs obscures most public debate about the wisdom of using them or the risks inherent in losing control of them. The government's silence about America's new arsenal and its implications poses a sharp contrast to the first decades of the nuclear era. The horrific scenes of destruction at Hiroshima and Nagasaki not only seared the national psyche, but made America's destructive capabilities, and soon Russia's and China's, obvious and undeniable. Yet even while the government kept the details classified, how to build atomic weapons, where they are stored, and who has the authority to order their launch, America engaged in a decades-long political debate about when to threaten to use the bomb and whether to ban it.
Thom Hartmann Program.
The book, The Perfect Weapon, by David E. Sanger.
Boy, is there a pile of news today. Wow. And happy Monday. Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. It's International Women's Day. Perfect day to talk about what Meghan Markel revealed over the weekend and how the far right is reacting to it. I'll get to that after the break in about 15 minutes. We're going to be talking with Parker Molloy from Media Matters in the second hour about Dr. Seuss. And then I want to get into the three kinds of capitalism out there and how the Democratic and Republican parties have chosen different forms of capitalism. We'll get into all those details in the second hour of the program, and we'll continue that conversation in the third hour, where I've just got a pile of news. It looks like Ron DeSantis may be going down in Florida. Some interesting theories about what's going on with, not so much what's going on with the governor of New York, Mario Cuomo. Everybody realizes he's a bully, but how this might play out to the advantage of Donald Trump. I'll talk about that in our third hour. And, we just have a pile of stuff here. But I want to start out with Anthony Fauci, Donald Trump, and Greg Abbott. Anthony Fauci just came out, this was yesterday, and said that we have 524,000 dead Americans now, more than any other country in the world. We've got more COVID cases than any country in the world. We've got more dead Americans than any other country in the world. And Anthony Fauci came out and said, don't lift your mask mandates until we achieve herd immunity, which is going to be like, 70, 75, 80% of the population vaccinated. And with this new variant coming along, it's 50% more contagious. Keep in mind, measles is hugely more contagious than COVID or the flu or anything else. It's one of the most contagious diseases out there. You have to have 96 to 97% immunization in a community to achieve herd immunity with measles, which is why they're so hysterical about the measles vaccine. Using the old variant, the assumption was 70 to 75% vaccination and you will have herd immunity and, the country can go back to normal. But with these new variants that keep mutating in these places, there's a new variant out of Louisiana. There's a new variant out of Brazil. There's of course, the British variant that's floating around. And some of them are, the B117, the British variant, which is the fastest growing one in the United States. By the middle of this month, it'll be probably more than half of all cases. It's 50% more contagious than the old original COVID virus. So Fauci is like, you're nuts if you reduce the mass vaccine. He said you can't be turning restrictions on and off. That was his phrase. He said we have to keep America as safe as we can from this virus by not letting up on any of the public health measures. And then you get Greg Abbott down in Texas and Tate Reeves, the governor of Mississippi, going, hey, we're open. We're back to normal. It doesn't matter. Go out there and get yourself infected. In fact, Tate Reeves on CNN State of the Union over the weekend said, our objective in Mississippi has never been to rid ourselves of the virus. Our goal is to make sure we protect the integrity of our healthcare system. In other words, let's just let people continue dying. Let's just hold it down to a rate where it doesn't overwhelm our ICUs and ERs. I mean, think about this. I really want to put this in a larger frame and ask you the question, why is it happening like this, that there's no accountability for this? Normally, when something happens that kills 500,000 people in one country, something that was preventable, normally when that happens, somebody is held accountable. Taiwan has a population of 24 million people. In the 14 months since this began, 10 people have died in Taiwan. In Vietnam, they got a population of 97 million. 35 people have died in Vietnam. In Thailand, with a population of 70 million, 85 people have died. In Australia, with 25 million people, 909 people have died. In South Korea, with a population of 51 million people, 1,600 people have died. And in Canada, with 38 million people, 22,000 people have died. If you add all those numbers together, you get a little over 24,000 people, 24,663 people. We have lost 530,000. We have lost 500,000. And by the way, if you add the population of all those countries together, it's pretty much the same as America. So what's the difference between this collection of countries that I just named that have seen a total of 24,000 deaths, almost 25,000 deaths in a year and a half, versus America that has seen 530,000 deaths? The difference is that every one of those countries that I named had a nationwide mask mandate, had a nationwide ban on getting together in indoor settings, large numbers of people. In other words, they took basic public health steps. They didn't do anything magic. Now, most of those countries are in Asia, and the reason why the Asian countries did so much better than the European countries, for example, is because they had SARS back a decade and a half ago, and it hit them really hard. It killed a bunch of people, and they learned how to deal with a pandemic. But this wasn't rocket science. The Obama administration left behind a manual. It was called the Pandemic Playbook, that the Trump administration literally threw away. The Obama administration set up 2 offices, one in the Director of National Security's office and one in the Department of Homeland Security, to deal specifically with pandemics, and the Trump administration in their first year shut them both down, fired all the people, disposed of all the documents. So why aren't we holding anybody accountable? I mean, here in America, Donald Trump knew this virus was deadly. He told Bob Woodward in January of last year, 14 months ago, he told Bob Woodward, this is deadly. This is 5 times more deadly than the flu. This is a nasty virus. This is deadly stuff. Those are all phrases that Donald Trump used when he was talking to Bob Woodward back in January, 14 months ago, January. He knew. But what did he say to the 70 million followers he has and to all the rest of us? He used these exact phrases. It's just like the flu. There's nothing to fear. It's no big deal. It will miraculously disappear. And because of his lies, we now have 500,000 plus dead Americans. 1 in every 670 Americans has died of the coronavirus. More Americans have died from the virus that Trump let rage through America. Hell, he encouraged it to rage through America than from every war we have fought in since 1900. I mean, virtually all of these deaths, sure, I mean, somebody on Twitter said, well, once it got into America, it was inevitable people would die. Yeah, a few. Maybe we can cut Trump some slack on 10 or 20 or 30 or 50,000 deaths. Maybe even 100,000 if you want to be super generous, but 500,000? Hell no. This guy has blood on his hands. He even lied about how sick COVID made him. We know now when he went into the hospital, his blood oxygen levels were hitting around 80. That's the point where you get intubated. And he lied, and he never told us. He lied by omission. He never told us that he got vaccinated. So how do we hold this guy accountable? And then Greg Abbott and the governor of Mississippi. How do we hold them accountable?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And perhaps more importantly, why aren't we holding them accountable? Why is there no discussion in the media about accountability? Why is nobody talking about this? And welcome back. Bernard in Westfield, Wisconsin. Hey, Bernard, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What is on your mind today?
Well, I'm concerned about all the federal FEMA employees we have in Texas and Mississippi helping out. Should they really be exposed to what's going on there? I mean, you know, why are they being put
Well, it's
at
not
risk?
like Texas and Mississippi are the only places where you've got, you know, raging infection rates. It's happening all over the country. It's worse in those states than in many other states, but I don't get your point, Bernard.
I still feel like, you know, those are federal employees who are being put at risk seemingly with people who don't want our help. And, you know, maybe it's time to pull them back. You know, they're delivering water and everything, putting themselves in harm's way. For what?
Oh, the people who you're talking about, I thought you were thinking about the people who are running the federal vaccination sites. What you're talking about are the folks who are dealing with the cold snap, who are putting back, helping put together power lines and bringing water in and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a tough
I believe
one.
there's still large numbers of them who are doing that. And how are they being compensated for the risk they're taking? You know, and I feel like I need to rant these days because I'm in hospice now. So I hope you'll allow me a little time to rant.
Go for it.
Well, Mitt Romney is riding his car elevator to heaven. You know, I couldn't afford my cancer medications. The co-pays were too high. So I'm in hospice now. And judging from all the stitches he received lately, his religion's not working for him. Just needed to say that.
Who are you talking about? Mitt Romney?
Yeah. Mitt Romney with his elevator to his car elevator, you know.
Oh, yeah, but how did Mitt
us-
Romney? How is Mitt Romney responsible for your not being able to afford your cancer medication?
Well,
Or
you
MS?
know, they hold up, you know, the stimulus and all of that. You know. Well,
you're talking about the
Mitt
immediate.
Romney.
Yeah. Well, Romney wasn't the ringleader of that. I don't believe.
No,
I
but
think
previously,
that was Ron
you know.
Johnson of Wisconsin.
Well, yeah. I'm in Wisconsin, so I know all about Ron Johnson.
Yeah.
If I ever do get my stimulus, I plan to campaign actively against him, you know, with what little I have left in my life.
Well, those checks are supposed to be going out next week.
Yeah, I still haven't.
And I doubt Joe Biden is going to include a letter saying, "I, Joe Biden, bestow this gift upon you with my signature upon the check," like Donald Trump did. You know, I think he's going to be a little more humble about it.
I defaced the first one I got from Trump. You know, how long ago was that? But I had to do something on the front of the check, and the teller kind of snickered.
Yeah. I get it.
know,
Well, Bernard, I'm sorry. We're going to hit a break here. I'm very sorry to hear that you're in hospice. I hope that you know that if you're in pain, it's under control, and that you're doing well. And I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
And thank you for the call. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV, Bernard. I really wish you the very best, and I'm sure you know all the people watching and listening do too. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 20 minutes past the hour. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. So people wonder, why militias all of a sudden? How is it that all kinds of Americans are showing up with assault weapons in the Capitol building trying to assassinate the Vice President of the United States and the Speaker of the House of Representatives and stop the counting of the presidential votes, the Electoral College votes? Where did this come from? You know, the last time we saw an armed uprising against the federal government in the United States was 1861. It was the Confederacy. Is this a Confederacy rising again? Well, yeah, there is a huge white supremacist element to it. In fact, I'd say it's one of the primary animating impulses. But what really got these things going, these militias going, was the Heller decision written by the opinion written by Antonin Scalia and published on June 26, 2008. And it has crazy language in it, basically begging for militias. I share it with you in a special video over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. That was my topic one. How do we hold Donald Trump and Greg Abbott and whatever that Mississippi governor's name is, what's his name, Tate Reeves, how do we hold them accountable? I mean, is there criminal law that can be used? I realize that you have this issue of sovereign immunity that's going to make it really hard to go after any of them, frankly. Which leads to option number two. Is there civil law that can be used against them? Can the families of people who died in this pandemic sue because of the failure of the Trump administration and of these various Republican governors? You know, Kristi Noem, another one. Yeah, come on down to South Dakota. It's South Dakota, right? Maybe it's North Dakota, whichever Dakota it is that she's the governor of. Yeah, come on down. We'll have a giant rally. 500,000 or more motorcyclists will come here, and then that spread the virus over like 30 or 40 states. I mean, they've done the science on this. She facilitated a massive super spreader event in the United States. How do you hold her accountable? Can they do civil lawsuits? Could those, at the very least, could those civil lawsuits then lead to discovery that lets us know exactly why Trump and why these governors did this? Was it because big industrialists said, hey, we want to get these workers back to work. We don't care how many of them die. We want them back to work. And those industrialists were big campaign donors to the GOP. Was that the reason? Or was it because Donald Trump thought that if he acknowledged the severity of the virus, he would have to really work hard in the White House, and he has never worked hard his entire life? He wanted to play golf? Or is it that if he thought that if he acknowledged the virus, he would lose his reelection? I mean, exactly why are these people doing this? I get it that in Sweden, you know, they tried this experiment, this herd immunity experiment, because they were listening to this guy, I think his name was Anders Tegan, who was this right-wing economist in Sweden, who said, yeah, we can achieve herd immunity with this. Let's do it. And about, 4 or 5 months into that experiment, they realized, hey, we've got the highest death rate in Europe right now, or certainly in Scandinavia. Screw that. And he left in shame and humiliation, and Sweden started telling everybody to wear your damn masks. But here in the United States, we never had that light bulb moment when the science came in. Why? And how do we hold these people accountable? Number one. Number two, as I said, International Women's Day. And Meghan Markle, this is mind-boggling. She herself is a biracial child. She has one black parent, one white parent. She married one of Charles and Diana's sons, Harry. And she said that, everything was fine. Everybody loved her. She was welcomed with open arms until she got pregnant. And then the word was, oh my God, what if that baby is darker than Harry? What if he's even darker than her? Oh, we can't name him a prince. We can't have a black person in the royal line of succession. Oh my God. And at that point she said, I just didn't want to be alive anymore. That was a clear, real, frightening, and constant thought. So, is this a political issue? Well, apparently the right wing thinks so. You know, I've told you before about this daily newsletter that I get in email. It's free. You can subscribe to it too. It's called The Writing, R-I-G-H-T-I-N-G, not with a W, but just R, right? As in right wing. It's thewriting.com is the website. It's the top news headlines from the far right for the rest of us. And this is their number one, their top story. Trump has Meghan Markle's number. We've all met women. This is WayneDupree.com. We've all met women like Meghan. She's a toxic drama queen. And nobody nailed Meghan's persona better than Trump. He saw through Meghan's phony facade and nailed what a nasty, conniving woman she is. In a March 2020 appearance, Trump wished Harry good luck with his wife, saying, "He's gonna need it. Amen." Over at American Thinker magazine, the headline, Meghan Markle openly accused the royals of racism. And here's the opening paragraph. Meghan has proven to be a classic leftist, self-centered, ruled by emotion, greedy, resentful of obligations that don't have an immediate benefit for her, race-obsessed, and whiny. The ancient British royal family made a strong public show of welcoming her, and she spat in their faces. Really? The right wing is going after Meghan Markle? Well, of course they are. The principal appeal, and we know this now from dozens of studies, the main reason why the majority of people who voted for Trump was white racism. And so, hey, here's a black woman in the royal family. Let's pick on her. Let's call her names. Let's go after. I mean, it just makes perfect sense that this would be the Republican response. Anyhow, your thoughts after the break.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
How do we hold these people accountable? And gee, I don't know what to do about Meghan. It's a tough one. It's the Free Speech TV fundraising drive right here, right now. 877-378-8669. Time to help out Free Speech TV. There's a bunch of ways you can help. One, obviously, send money, right? Call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution. And we'll go through what the goodies are that you can get in exchange for that in just a moment. Number two is becoming a regular monthly sustaining contributor. That's a really good thing and a helpful thing, and that helps out in really big ways, even when it's small amounts of money, because it allows Free Speech TV to have, to do budgeting, which is like a really important thing for every organization, particularly nonprofits, small nonprofits like Free Speech TV. But number three, you can become an evangelist for Free Speech TV. We really need to crank this up. If we can double our viewership, we can, within short order, I think, double our donor base, which means we can cut in half the time for these pledge drives. And that would be just staying in the same place. Or we could keep the pledge drives a little longer and double the budget and add new programs and build out Free Speech TV. And I mean, there's just so many possibilities. And it all really comes down to having a viewership base. And so you can help with that. And it doesn't cost anything. If you're already using social media, start talking about Free Speech TV on social media. If you tweet about Free Speech TV, if I catch it, I mean, I'm not always reading it, but if I catch it, I will definitely like it. Say something nice about Free Speech TV on Facebook. That's a little harder for me to catch, but just because the page, scrolls so much. But we'll like those. But whether I like it or not, I mean, as in hitting the like button, it's still great if you can get the message out. Tell your friends about it. Figure out ways to work it into conversation. The other day, somebody wants to debate you about, cancel culture or minimum wage or whatever it may be, right? And you share some thoughts with them, and then you say, I learned about that on Free Speech TV. It's freespeech.org if you want to check it out. If you've got Dish or Direct, you can get it right on your television. Otherwise, you can get it through Apple TV, you can get it through Roku, you can get it through Hulu, you can get, I mean, there's just a bunch of ways to get it. They're all over at freespeech.org. All you have to do is go to freespeech.org and learn all about how you can get Free Speech TV, how you can watch Free Speech TV. If that's your sales pitch, right, or your promotional pitch, shall we say, then you start doing that regularly, telling people about it, you know, probably for every 10 or 15 or 20 people you tell, maybe one of them might become a regular viewer. You know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and not everybody has the time to watch TV, et cetera, but the word will spread. We have to become evangelists for this network. You know, and I say at the end of the show every day, you know, democracy depends on you. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it, or variations on that theme. This is one of those things I'm talking about, is helping Free Speech TV grow, helping Free Speech TV expand, helping Free Speech TV reach more people. So we need to do that, number one. Number two, if we can get 300 new donors by the end of this week here, it'll unlock an extra $5,000 from Free Speech TV frontline funder Andrew in San Diego. So that's important. So here are the premiums, very quickly. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the official Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, you can get 2 Free Speech TV face masks and turn yourself into a Free Speech TV billboard as you're walking around. You could double mask. You can put it on the outside and, you know, wear another mask underneath it. With a $120 gift, you have 3 choices. Either the Grow the Social Change box, a wildflower seed pack, the windowsill herb garden, the new tote bag, and the Free Speech TV branded sunglasses, or the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, or with a $120 gift, the Hidden History of American Oligarchy, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, join us for a virtual meet and greet. We'll all get together on a Zoom call, and we can talk about whatever you'd like. They last an hour. Typically, there's fewer than a dozen people, sometimes 8 or 10, and you know we do them every month, and they're just great. And with the $240 gift, if you don't want to do the Zoom call, you can get 2 copies, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, both autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box, which is the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the wildflower seed gift, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland once we are back in the studio this fall, and because I'm pretty sure by then we'll have everybody vaccinated, and I really believe things are going to be back to normal, probably by, at the latest, July, August, September, something like that. And I'm really looking forward to it. And you can come visit us here in Portland, and it'll be a great time. So call now, 877-378-8669, and start looking for ways that you can help Free Speech TV, that you can become a publicist for Free Speech TV, that you can be an evangelist for Free Speech TV and help build this television network. You can. Tag, you're it. Thanks a lot, and please call now, 877-378-8669. This week on The Science Revolution is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's here about his new book, Cosmic Queries, Star Talk's guide to who we are, how we got here, and where we're going. We'll be talking about what is life on Earth and in the universe? How did the universe get to be this way and not some other way? What is the universe made of? Plus, we get into how will the Earth end? Doomsday volcanoes, meteors, the death of the sun, and the collision of galaxies? So tune in for this in-depth conversation with Neil deGrasse Tyson on The Science Revolution, wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back to the place where smart people get their news. As I mentioned at the opening of the show, I've got a huge stack of news to get to today. I'm going to get to your phone calls in less than a minute or two, but I did want to point out one big thing that happened over the weekend that I don't think you can overstate what a big deal it is. Joe Manchin on, I believe it was Fox News, of all places. Well, of course, well, I'm not going to go off into that tangent. But anyhow, Joe Manchin said the filibuster should be painful. It really should be painful. And we've made it more comfortable over the years. See, right now, you know, I did an op-ed about this last week. It was called Bring Back the Jimmy Stewart Filibuster. And I said, you know, we need to have if you're going to have a filibuster, if you're going to require that the Senate have a filibuster, if you think that's like an important feature of it, even though the founders were opposed to it and it didn't even happen until all the founders were dead. It happened in the late 1830s. John C. Calhoun made the filibuster happen. But if you want to have a filibuster, at least do it the way, you know, in the Frank Capra movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. If somebody's filibustering, they have to stand on the floor and they have to have 40 senators or 39 other senators on, you know, in the chamber with them at the time. So Manchin goes on to say, maybe it has to be more painful. Maybe you have to stand there. There's things we can talk about. I don't know if Manchin read my op-ed. I know it got widely circulated. It went viral on Twitter, etc. And it did very well on Facebook. And of course, I wasn't the only person saying this. But now Joe Manchin's saying this, and I think that's a big deal. So, to your calls. Paul in Benton, Pennsylvania. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, hi, Tom. You know, it's really hard to hold people accountable when the Republicans won't even, let Biden install his attorney general. And, you know, the Republicans have this thing, you know, about freedom, and their idea of freedom is freedom from responsibility, freedom from accountability, and freedom from liability. It's just like with remember during the recession with the banks, too big to fail, too big to jail, and that's, you know, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I think you are onto something, Paul. And I thought it was real interesting on Friday on Rachel's show. She kind of set this whole thing up of, you know, the D.C. office of the FBI, which is, you know, under the Attorney General. Bill Barr basically got rid of a whole bunch of regular prosecutors there and stacked it with Trump cronies and Bill Barr toadies. And they're the ones who tried to let off General Flynn, tried to drop all the charges against him. They're the ones who wanted a lighter sentence for Paul Manafort. They're the ones who didn't even want to prosecute a number of other Trump cronies. And those people are still in charge. And they're still running that office. And she was wondering why it is that Huffington Post is running headline stories outing people. You know, this one guy who was beating the police with a fire extinguisher, and the FBI hasn't even gone to pick him up yet. And it's just like, what the hell is going on? And then she gets this guest on, and the guest goes, well, they're kind of busy. But his beat is the FBI. So he's probably, you know, this is kind of one of those, in my opinion, this is one of those capture things where, you know, if you're a reporter who covers the FBI in quotes, and that's your main beat in quotes, then the last thing you want to do is piss off the FBI, because then you won't be able to get information and you won't be able to have stories anymore, and you just lost your whole claim to fame. And so she gets him on, and he goes, well, I think they're just busy. I don't think they're just busy. I think the cover-up continues, and I think that this is a part of it. I think, Paul, you may well have hit the nail on the head. Thank you, Paul, for the call. Dave in Federal Way, Washington. So what says our retired intelligence officer, Dave?
Yeah, hey, Tom. You know, I retired in 2010 from the Army, and then I got out of all the Department of Defense intelligence work in 2012. All right, so this is going to be relevant here in a minute. Check this out. I was talking to some coworkers. They were really anti-mask, okay, very pro-Trump, and they were actually anti-vax. Now, that concerned me, right? And I was using the example of bovine viral diarrhea, okay, because we can see that works. And these are livestock. All right, farmers vaccinate them to protect their investment, right? We can see that it works.
So there's this disease that causes diarrhea in cows that's viral, and you can prevent it with a vaccine, and so cows across America are vaccinated. Is that what you're saying? I didn't know anything about that. Okay.
Well, but I'll connect all this if you give me a second. Now, this Trump voter criticized me. He said, you're typical liberal. He goes, you don't even know that the COVID-19 is a coronavirus, is a COVID, or is a, SARS-CoV-2. Well, I just started laughing. And he goes, what's so funny? I said, oh, that's just funny. I find that humorous. You know, and here's what's so funny about it, and this is why I was laughing at him. I knew about the SARS-CoV-2 problem, or the SARS problem, all right, in 2010 when I retired from the military. And at the time, it was getting on my nerves, all these intelligence briefings, because at the time, I felt that the senior command at the Pentagon was kind of like in this rut to where they were just going to accept what I considered useless or needless American casualties in Iraq and Afghanistan. You know, you kind of fall into this rut, for lack of a better word, where you're like, okay, somebody was blown up by an IED, somebody's daughter was blown up. Oh, well, next slide. You know, you fall into that rut. And it was getting on my nerves that they were more interested in this SARS virus in China. So that was 2010, Tom. You've got to put things in perspective. I was a mid-grade analyst, okay? There's absolutely no reason. There's absolutely no way Donald Trump did not. Any thought to the contrary is ridiculous.
No way Donald Trump did not what? I think you have a call coming in and it blanked you out there for a second.
Oh, I said there's absolutely no way Donald Trump didn't know about this. Even
no, we notified Israel in late November that something was going on that had to do with a contagious virus in China, and that if it got into the Middle East, it could be a problem in high-density areas, particularly, you know, places like Gaza, which, by the way, still hasn't been vaccinated. You know, Trump had to have known about it at the latest by December, but it had to have been in his national security briefings in late November.
Yeah, well, the problem is, you know, even though I'm incredibly happy that Joe Biden is president, I'm getting even more, I have even more anxiety about the United States of America, because we have this completely toxic. Hey, this weekend I was thinking about the threat Donald Trump poses to America because of the comparisons with Teddy Roosevelt and him. And I remember
you're talking about toxic masculinity. You dropped a word again there.
Toxic conservatism, which I think includes toxic masculinity. Okay. And it's this rejection of anything academic. It's this rejection of anything intellectual. That is not, conservatism used to not be that way. And this comparison with Donald Trump and Teddy Roosevelt worries me, because my last few years in the military, I noticed a lot of officers would put Roosevelt quotes on papers or at the end of their emails. Sometimes those Roosevelt quotes weren't even Teddy Roosevelt quotes. Like one, right. I was thinking about, Roosevelt said that a vote is like a rifle. Its usefulness depends on who's using it. And I'm like, see, you know, they don't like
Teddy
democracy,
Roosevelt never
Tom.
said that.
Long story short.
Yeah.
Well,
I get that.
And the point is...
And Teddy Roosevelt celebrated intellectual pursuits. I mean, you know, he was a very physical guy, but he was also college educated, and he celebrated intellectual pursuits. And you know, Barry Goldwater and William F. Buckley, the leading conservatives in the 60s, were proud of the fact that they considered themselves intellectuals. But what does this have to do with holding Trump and holding Greg Abbott accountable?
Okay, in conservatism, I think, conservatism right now, Jesus was not really Jesus, Roosevelt was not really Roosevelt, and Donald Trump is not really Donald Trump. All right? I mean, comparing Donald Trump...
So they're living in a false reality.
Yes, and there's no way the Kremlin or Beijing or any adversary or even ally to the United States, there's no way they can exploit that. There's absolutely no way. It's like this huge vulnerability that I don't...
Well, apparently they are. I mean, there's this report over the weekend that you've got Russian trolls now promoting the idea that the vaccines are dangerous.
Yes, and let me relate this back to myself so I don't sound like an elitist, okay?
Okay, you got 30 seconds, Dave.
Okay, I had an article pop up in my news feed about the Chinese army, the PRC's army, using biological techniques to modify human beings into super soldiers. I don't think that's true. I think that's a fiction. I think that message was routed to me because of my habits on the internet. So I am not immune. None of us are immune.
Yeah.
None of us are immune. It's scary.
Yeah, there you go. And all of us need to get vaccinated so that we can be at least somewhat immune to this virus. By the way, the CDC just came out with new guidelines for how to behave if you are vaccinated. And I'll tell you about those after the next break, too. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Boy, it's like you take the weekend off and the news just does not stop. We'll be right back. And welcome back, John in Los Angeles. Hey, John, what's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, Tom. I'm going to read this real quickly to solve some problems. Federal government has broad authority to quarantine and improve other health measures to prevent the spread of diseases from foreign as well as between states, domestic. So FDR signed this into it was called the Public Health Services Act, July 1st, 1944. I don't have the code right offhand. U.S. 18 Code 1510. That might be the obstruction of justice thing. But anyway, it's a law that Biden can use as well. It supersedes state law. So why should we have to be responsible for two, prepubescent governors in Texas and Arizona that want to kill people? And
it's Texas and Mississippi.
Richard Burr, biodefense, had a lot of Covoid stock. Ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah. So John, you are correctly pointing out that there is a federal law on the books, and has been since the 40s. And in fact, I think there might even be one earlier than that. But, I'm not sure. Certainly Woodrow Wilson did not invoke it during the flu pandemic. So maybe it only went on the books in 44. But that there is a federal law that allows the president to declare a health emergency and mandate nationwide that people engage in whatever behaviors are necessary to guarantee the safety of the public. I get that. And Biden could impose a national, he could impose a national lockdown. He could impose a national mask mandate. He could, from the federal level, shut down all the schools. I mean, he could do most of those things. There would be challenges in court. But, the constitutionality of it would ultimately be the issue that would be, decided by the Supreme Court. But under the law, he could do that. But he's not choosing to do that, not because he wants to see more people die, but because he knows that what you saw in Michigan when Gretchen Whitmer imposed a mask mandate and shut down bars and restaurants, and what did they do? They conspired to kidnap and kill her. And they were going to hold a trial in Wisconsin for her on television and execute her in public. That is a small version of what would happen, not just to him, but to it would triple energize this well-armed right-wing crazy movement. And so what he's doing instead is he's trying to say, hey, this is the right thing to do. And he's got Fauci out there talking about it and other scientists. And he's letting the news networks carry this. And he's leaving it up to the individual states, which I think is probably the right thing to do. The problem is I think we've got now 6 states that have basically dropped all restrictions. And the 2 most recent were Texas and Mississippi. And Greg Abbott and Tate Reeves are taking actions that are going to cause thousands of people, thousands of Texans and thousands of Mississippians to die. I mean, it's just that simple. Probably tens of thousands of Texans, given how much larger that state is than Mississippi. And I don't see any accountability. I'm convinced that it's sovereign immunity that prevents it. But, John, thank you for pointing out and quoting that law for us. And thanks for listening to KPFK. We'll be right back with more of your calls and the news of the day in just a moment. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program, the True People's Media. Stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, my new book is out, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, Reclaiming Our Democracy from the Ruling Class. Want to know more? The links are all over at thomhartmann.com. So with some fancy footwork math, you can take the GDP of the United States, the productivity, the amount of wealth that is produced, or goods and services that are produced every year by American workers, and divide it by the number of workers, and what you get is that the average worker in America is producing about $75 an hour worth of value for their employer. And the minimum wage pays them about 10% of that value. Now, back in 1950, the minimum wage paid 30% of the value of the productivity that the average worker is producing for their employer. If we took the minimum wage up to $15 an hour tomorrow, it would still be in the neighborhood of 20%. So there's a strong case for increasing the minimum wage based on history. I lay this all out in the new video that we have just for our people who are supporters of our program over at thomhartmann.com. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you and Fred in Grass Valley, Oregon. Hey, Fred, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I just want to let you know I support your call for accountability for the excessive death rate in the U.S. And I think that Donald Trump should be held accountable. I don't know why he can't be charged with crimes against humanity for his actions and how he basically.
Well, maybe the Hague could get involved in this. I don't think George W. Bush, when he was committing crimes against humanity, when he was committing war crimes, torturing people and renditioning people to black sites, innocent people to be tortured, he pulled us out of the International Criminal Court. So they don't have jurisdiction over the United States any longer. But I get what you're saying, Fred. It seems to me that, because of sovereign immunity, which is the doctrine that if somebody is running a government, you can't hold them responsible for things that they do in that capacity. And it assumes that people make mistakes, not that people behave with malice. But I think this was malicious. I think that Trump did this specifically to satisfy his high-end donors. Because, I mean, if you look at who is, opposed to, for example, the bailout bill, or it's not a bailout, the COVID relief package, excuse me. It was the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They're opposed to it, right? They want people to get back to work, force them back to work. So Trump was either sucking up to his donors, or he thought that, widespread publicity about COVID would cause him to lose re-election, which frankly I think it did. And so, how do we hold him accountable if we can't hold him criminally liable because of the doctrine of sovereign immunity? I think that there are civil ways that we might be able to hold him accountable. But even at the simplest level, Fred, he's not being held accountable in the court of public opinion. The media is not asking, how do we hold Trump accountable? Why is nobody talking about his accountability? I'm with you, Fred. I think this is a crime against humanity. I think it's terrible. Thank you very much for the call. Zoe in Louisville, Kentucky. Hey, Zoe, what's up?
Hi there. So I like listening to this conversation, but I got to say, dude, nobody is ever going to hold Donald Trump accountable for anything that he's done. I mean, we've seen it again and again and again. The sky is blue. The grass is green. He is never going to be held to account in any sort of court, especially not the court of public opinion. We're focusing on the wrong thing. I mean,
Cyrus Vance and Letitia James would argue with you.
I hope. Look, it's not that I don't. Okay, it's not that I don't hope that he does get metaphorically, legally nailed to the wall. It's that I know that he's never in his entire life he's never gotten held accountable for anything he's ever done. And it's
You're right, which is why he thinks he's immune to everything.
I hope it happens. I hope and pray it happens.
And I think the same is true of his children, by the way.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, that crazy rant that Junior, spouted on about saying, that Biden needs to be, removed from office immediately because he's an old creeper. I mean, you have to laugh at it if you've got half a brain, Yeah,
especially after his dad has over 20 women accusing him of rape.
Yeah, exactly. And children, I mean, come on. So that we need to put a pin in this one, honestly, because, I mean, there are voters' rights under attack across many states, you know, and these lifting restrictions and burning the masks and upping the spread. I mean, I hope this isn't why these governors did it, but doing that, encouraging the spread of the virus, is just going to distract us more from what they're going to be doing to limit voter rights.
Yeah, and this transition to gangster capitalism, which I'm going to talk about in the next hour. Yeah, no, I get it, Zoe. Zoe, I want to get one more call in here before the end of the hour. Thank you for the call. Gary in Naples, Florida. Your thoughts, Gary?
Hi, Tom. Thank you. How you been?
Good. Greed has no heart, Gary.
Oh, greed has no heart ever. And thank you for taking my call. Look, this is my take on it. You're asking this question. You're asking a great question. Why is this being allowed in America? No accountability with the governors and people of high power.
Why is the media not even asking this question?
Right, the media's not even asking. Well, yeah, that's even more alarming. You're exactly right. My gut feeling is we don't have the culture right now, if you will. There's too many bad apples now in the barrel that are souring the rest of the good ones. Slowly but surely, death by 1,000 cuts. I think that's the reason. We don't have the culture right now to give them an incentive. They have to have an incentive, whether it's voting them out. Sometimes voting's not enough. I just don't believe right now. I could be wrong. And secondly, I want to quote FDR, if I may. I think it was his. I also believe.
You have 10 seconds.
I also believe wealth undermines democracy. I think that's exactly what's going on in America. At the core, wealth is undermining everything. You know,
FDR said government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. And absolutely right. Gary, thank you. Thank you. Bless you. It's always great to hear from you. We're hitting the top of the hour here. Stick around. We're going to get back into green eggs and ham and what's going on with Fox News right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabby.com. Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabby.com/Tom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teethhealth.com, code TOM. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code TOM. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM.
We say fight back!
It's the Free Speech TV fundraising drive right here, right now. 877-378-8669. Time to help out Free Speech TV. There's a bunch of ways you can help. One, obviously, send money, right? Call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution. And we'll go through what the goodies are that you can get in exchange for that in just a moment. Number 2 is becoming a regular monthly sustaining contributor. That's a really good thing and a helpful thing, and that helps out in really big ways, even when it's small amounts of money, because it allows Free Speech TV to have, to do budgeting, which is like a really important thing for every organization, particularly nonprofits, small nonprofits like Free Speech TV. But number 3, you can become an evangelist for Free Speech TV. We really need to crank this up. If we can double our viewership, we can, within short order, I think, double our donor base, which means we can cut in half the time for these pledge drives. And that would be just staying in the same place. Or we could keep the pledge drives a little longer and double the budget and add new programs and build out Free Speech TV. And I mean, there's just so many possibilities, and it all really comes down to having a viewership base. And so you can help with that. And it doesn't cost anything. If you're already using social media, start talking about Free Speech TV on social media. If you tweet about Free Speech TV, if I catch it, I mean, I'm not always reading it, but if I catch it, I will definitely like it. Say something nice about Free Speech TV on Facebook. That's a little harder for me to catch, but just because the page, scrolls so much. But we'll like those. But whether I like it or not, I mean, as in hitting the like button, it's still great if you can get the message out. Tell your friends about it. Figure out ways to work it into conversation. The other day, somebody wants to debate you about, cancel culture or minimum wage or whatever it may be, right? And you share some thoughts with them, and then you say, I learned about that on Free Speech TV. It's freespeech.org if you want to check it out. If you've got Dish or Direct, you can get it right on your television. Otherwise, you can get it through Apple TV, you can get it through Roku, you can get it through Hulu, there's just a bunch of ways to get it. They're all over at freespeech.org. All you have to do is go to freespeech.org and learn all about how you can get Free Speech TV, how you can watch Free Speech TV. If that's your sales pitch, right, or your promotional pitch, shall we say, then you start doing that regularly, telling people about it, probably for every 10 or 15 or 20 people you tell, maybe one of them might become a regular viewer. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and not everybody has the time to watch TV, et cetera, but the word will spread. We have to become evangelists for this network. And I say at the end of the show every day, democracy depends on you. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it, or variations on that theme. This is one of those things I'm talking about. Is helping Free Speech TV grow, helping Free Speech TV expand, helping Free Speech TV reach more people. So we need to do that, number 1. Number 2, if we can get 300 new donors by the end of this week here, it'll unlock an extra $5,000 from Free Speech TV frontline funder Andrew in San Diego. So that's important. So here are the premiums, very quickly. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the official Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, you can get 2 Free Speech TV face masks and turn yourself into a Free Speech TV billboard as you're walking around. You could double mask. You can put it on the outside and wear another mask underneath it. With a $120 gift, you have 3 choices. Either the Grow the Social Change box, a wildflower seed pack, the windowsill herb garden, the new tote bag, and the Free Speech TV branded sunglasses, or the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, or with a $120 gift, the Hidden History of American Oligarchy, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, join us for a virtual meet and greet. We'll all get together on a Zoom call, and we can talk about whatever you'd like. They last an hour. Typically, there's fewer than a dozen people, sometimes 8 or 10, and we do them every month, and they're just great. And with a $240 gift, if you don't want to do the Zoom call, you can get 2 copies, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, both autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box, which is the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the wildflower seed gift, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland once we are back in the studio this fall, and because I'm pretty sure by then we'll have everybody vaccinated, and I really believe things are going to be back to normal probably by, at the latest, July, August, September, something like that. And I'm really looking forward to it. And you can come visit us here in Portland, and it'll be a great time. So call now, 877-378-8669, and start looking for ways that you can help Free Speech TV, that you can become a publicist for Free Speech TV, that you can be an evangelist for Free Speech TV and help build this television network. You can. Tag, you're it. Thanks a lot, and please call now, 877-378-8669.
And goes on from there. The book is What Would
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. In the last hour, I mentioned how right-wing media from the Writing newsletter, right-wing media is going after Meghan Markel now as, oh, she's a left-winger, therefore, you know, bloody. I mean, it's just, this is crazy stuff. The racism and misogyny that is on display is absolutely breathtaking. Oh, by the way, I also mentioned very quickly, I just want to get this out. The CDC has released new guidelines. If you have been vaccinated and you've got your second dose and it's been more than 2 weeks since the second dose, then unless you're dealing with people who are in high-risk categories, you can get together with people again. I mean, you know, life can begin to get back to normal. We'll dig into that in a little more detail, but how the right-wing media is dealing with this so-called cancel culture and all these culture wars that, in my opinion, are attempts to distract us from their real agenda, which is robbing the middle class blind and making rich people richer. The real experts on this over at MediaMatters.org. I mean, they track Fox News and other right-wing media like nobody's business. And Parker Molloy is the editor-at-large over at Media Matters. Parker is on the line with us. At Parker Molloy is Molloy. Is her Twitter handle, and MediaMatters.org, of course, is the website. Parker, great talking with you. What's the latest on the Dr. Seuss, Mr. Potato Head? What's going on over there?
Oh, we are entering, what is it, week 3 now of pretty much wall-to-wall cancel culture coverage. It's been interesting. This morning there were stories about Pepe Le Pew, the skunk from Looney Tunes, being canceled, and Speedy Gonzalez. It's a whole. They could devote a channel to it. It could be Fox News, Fox Business, and Fox cancel culture at this point.
Wow!
But last week was the Dr. Seuss extravaganza, essentially.
Right. Here's what baffles me. Every single Republican in the House and Senate just voted to cancel the minimum wage, to cancel an increase in our unemployment benefits, to cancel a $1,400 check, to cancel aid to states so that they can keep schools and fire departments and police departments going, to cancel. I mean, it's like there's real canceling going on being done by Republicans. Greg Abbot canceled the mask mandate, as did Reeves, I guess his name is, down in Mississippi, the governor there. Are those real cancellations and real efforts to stop any kind of forward movement in America that are being done by the Republican Party? Is that why Fox News and other right-wing media, it's all over right-wing hate radio as well, are so hysterical about this stuff? Why they're promoting this cancel culture thing?
Well, one thing I wrote about in my recent piece over at Media Matters is the fact that things seem to be going well for Joe Biden and his agenda so far. And I have a feeling that if COVID cases were on the rise, if the vaccine rollout wasn't going well, if the COVID relief bill was struggling to make its way through Congress, I feel like they would be devoting more coverage to that. But that hasn't really been the case. So they're really reaching back into this, they're playing the hits. I mean, when in doubt, create a moral panic. And that's what the whole cancel culture kind of
this is just reinvention of the war on Christmas, isn't it? Now Bill O'Reilly's go-to thing for a decade?
Exactly. War on Christmas, political correctness, call-out culture, cancel culture. It's all the same thing. It's all this phony outrage over nothing. And, I recently wrote about, all of the different ways that, people on the right have done exactly the thing that they're complaining about. I mean, you could go through ABC, Acorn, the Beatles, Campbell's Soup. It's just, there have been protests of all sorts of things for not sticking close to the conservative point of view when it comes to cultural issues. And I think that that's what's interesting and kind of scary is the fact that they were really going all in on culture war issues. I was looking at the front pages of the Federalist, the National Review, Daily Caller, Daily Wire, all the dailies, looking at those, and there wasn't really much talk about the stimulus bill. And you would think that ordinarily Republicans would be yelling, $1.9 trillion, what about the budget? What about the deficit? That would have been the right-wing talking point. But they're just not covering these things at all. Or when they are, they're trying to, again, tie it back into cultural issues. They don't want funds to go to people in prison, and they're fear-mongering over people who are undocumented getting payments when that's just not the case in the bill. It's really, I think it's telling about where the conservative movement's kind of headed, and it's not one of serious governance. It does seem to be more, stoking moral panic and trying to convince people that their way of life is being driven from public, where every day something that you love can be taken away by someone on the left who just decides it's not good anymore. And we saw that with the Dr. Seuss stuff. They covered it nonstop for the whole week, and for the most part, when they were talking about this, because the Dr. Seuss Enterprises, who owns the rights to all the Dr. Seuss books, decided to stop printing six of the lesser-known books. And when Fox was covering this, they were covering it as though the main issue was that they were trying to drive Dr. Seuss out of public life and showing pictures of the Cat in a Hat and books that were not being removed. And they tried to tie this into Joe Biden not mentioning Dr. Seuss in his Read Across America proclamation when Donald Trump didn't issue a Read Across America proclamation in 2017. So they acted like it was this big sacred tradition to call out Dr. Seuss in a positive way when Trump himself didn't do it in his first year in office.
We have about a minute and a half before we're going to hit a hard break. I saw this study that Lauren Boebert, who, the newbie Republican congresswoman from Colorado, who basically just talks about guns and shows pictures of guns, is actually rising in popularity among her base because of that. It seems to me that this idea that somebody wants to take away your way of life might be a hell of a lot more potent than somebody wants to take away your $300 stimulus check. Is it possible or even probable that the GOP is onto something here and that this is how they're going to win elections, that this is this generation's version of the old Willie Horton ads?
Well, I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, was that in North Carolina, Madison Cawthorn? He had some sort of statement where he was saying that he staffed his staff is focused on communication, not legislation, and I think that was a really interesting way to kind of look at things, and it's something that I think that people. So
if that's the case, how do Democrats respond to that?
Yeah, well, I think that the way you respond to that is I don't know the specific answer, but I think that you just have to call out how ridiculous it is. Say they are focused on this, we are focused on on these things that will materially help your lives. And that, I think, has to be a focus of the progressive left.
Yeah. It seems also that at some point it should be pointed out that it was a family foundation that decided to take out the Seuss books, and that decision was made last year when Trump was president, and that Hasbro made the decision last year to make Potato Head. Well, anyway, it's just like they're also lying. Anyhow, Parker Molloy over at MediaMatters.org. Check it out. Thank you, Parker.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's great talking with you, Parker. Thanks so much for dropping by. And we love Media Matters. Keep up the great work. Thank you. We'll be right back. It's 15 minutes past the hour. And welcome back. Tim in Aloha, Oregon. Hey, Tim, what's up?
Yeah, there's a pretty simple answer to this stuff. You're talking about how ridiculous it sounds for Trump as being held accountable and the attackers and stuff, because disaster sells, Tom. I was in sales and marketing for 35 years. It's all about demographics and market share. If Rachel Maddow came on tonight and said, everything's fine, green technology, women's reproductive rights, that's the news, and she's off. You see what I mean? It isn't going to work that way. They can spend an hour just on one subject, and the more outrageous stuff they come up with, the more viewers they get, and then the sponsors call and say, "Hey, we see what your numbers are, and let's sell you some more products." So every big disaster that comes on, they get a bigger paycheck. That's how the world works.
So, are you suggesting that the reason why they let the reason why Trump and these Republican governors let the virus rage is because it helps the news business, or are you arguing that that's why you've got news outlets that are doing cancel culture, that they're basically creating their own disaster to get hysterical about?
It's a combination of both. That's the end result. What Trump did is that when he initially tried to ignore it, he didn't want the stock market to go down, and then all hell broke.
And he said as much.
Yeah, and he said as much. Every time that guy opened his mouth, he was either indirectly or directly killing people. And now he's at Mar-a-Lago playing golf every day. You see, I mean, if there isn't anything more outrageous than that, what can you come up with? And then this whole thing about the Republicans, whether it's the congressional or Senate, what they're talking about behind the scenes, how they've been complicit in getting those guys at the. There's no doubt that they probably haven't uncovered half the stuff they're going to in terms of who's guilty of that insurrection. Directly involved with the government. And I think what they should do symbolically is just take every Republican that was on his side and himself and send the bill that the taxpayers are paying for that additional security in Washington. Send them a bill for that.
Yeah.
That's hundreds of millions of dollars. You see what I mean? Where's that?
Well, you've got there's over 20 cities right now that are still suing the Trump campaign for security that Trump has refused to pay for. I mean, El Paso is probably the most famous because their mayor is outspoken, but there's a bunch of cities that he's stiffed, and it adds up to tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, the only reason he wanted to be reelected was three variables. One, to keep his head financially above water. Two, to stay out of jail. And three, he probably, when he got in, he probably would have wanted to overturn the 22nd Amendment so he could have become the American Putin. That was in his brain, because that's
no, I agree with all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's trying to continue it. I mean, did you see that he just sent a cease and desist letter to the RNC saying, don't use my image anymore for fundraising. I'm the only one who can raise money off my picture.
Right. Well, he's going to be approaching $300 million pretty soon. What do you think he's doing with that money?
Right.
That's
what we know of.
Yeah,
that's what we know of. I mean, he's raising money right now for a super PAC. Super PACs don't have to report. Right? And
there's no way he's going to run for president again. That isn't going to happen.
No, but he's going to keep running the scam.
Oh, absolutely, because that's how he keeps his head financially above water. And then Deutsche Bank, and then the Saudis, and the rest of them. Well, he's going to say. And you know what's really scary about this? Some of the stuff, the classified information that he knows, he's probably going to utilize that behind the scenes in order to.
He can sell it.
Yeah.
If he hasn't already given it to a few other foreign dictators, he can certainly sell it. I'm with you, Tim. Tim, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had another sentence there. Tim, thank you for the call. It's coming up on 20 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. The Hartmann Report is a free daily podcast 7 days a week, and you can find our entire 3-hour podcast over at thomhartmann.com. So David Perry over at Medium.com put together a list of 38 reasons to investigate the Trump administration. Everything from the Russian influence over the 2016 election to the Trump family's collusion with Russia to Ivanka Trump's trademarks to federal spending at Trump properties to the civilians killed by Trump's drone strikes to the Trump administration's role in turning the United States into the global epicenter for the COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, we are. Yes, it's grim. Their decision to sideline the CDC, politicizing mask wearing just to try to get himself reelected, the number of people who died because the White House kept PPE from blue states, from Democratic-led states, the contents of the Trump documents that Trump refused to release to the House Judiciary Committee and other committees, all the people who wouldn't speak, at all, ignoring subpoenas, violations of the Hatch Act, the deportation of COVID-positive immigrant families, illegal altering of records. Anyhow, there's a whole list. It's over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. So just a few news things that I wanted to go through, as promised in the previous hour. First of all, the CDC this morning, and they did a whole press release on TV about it, or a press availability. It was the regular COVID briefing, but it kind of was all about that. And that is that if you have been fully vaccinated, now fully vaccinated, if it's Pfizer or Moderna, it means you've had 2 doses and you're 2 weeks past your second dose. Or if you've had the Johnson & Johnson, the J&J vaccine, you're 2 weeks past the only one single dose that you need. That's what qualifies you as fully vaccinated, just to define terms here. If you are fully vaccinated, then you may gather indoors with unmasked people who also have been fully vaccinated. You may also visit unvaccinated people without masks, so long as those people are not at high risk of COVID. Now, there's still a possibility. The one thing we know is that having this vaccine pretty much eliminates the odds that if you get COVID, you will die from it or even get really, really sick. But a small percentage of people who get these vaccines still get COVID. It's just a very weak form of it. It may even be asymptomatic. And so it's possible that even though you're fully vaccinated, you may be contagious. So continue to be careful. They say fully vaccinated people who come into contact with someone who has COVID-19 don't need to take a test and don't need to quarantine unless you show symptoms, unless you live in a congregate setting like a nursing home or a correctional facility, something like that. In other words, unless you're around a bunch of vulnerable people. So we now have 59 million Americans who've gotten 1 dose. That's 23% of the adult population. Within a couple of weeks, we'll be at 59 million people who've had 2 doses. And this is good news. This is good stuff. You'll recall last week I pointed out that there were 8 Democrats who voted to, or 7 Democrats who voted with Joe Manchin to eliminate the $15 minimum wage from the coronavirus rescue package. Had that not been eliminated in the Senate by this vote, it's entirely possible that Vice President Harris could have simply ignored or overruled the finding of the Senate parliamentarian and said, we're going to do this anyway. She had that power. It's been done before. Trent Lott did it back in 2001. No big deal. In fact, Trent Lott fired the parliamentarian and replaced him with somebody who was willing to go along with the reconciliation bill that they were working on back then, which I believe had to do with a giant tax cut. But we had 8 Democrats who voted against this, and now what has come out is the net worth of these 8 people who said that people who work a 40-hour week should continue to live in poverty. $15 an hour just squeaks you past the level of poverty if you're working 40 hours a week, right? It's $15,000 a year. Right now, it's $750 an hour. That takes you, $15 an hour takes you to $30,000 a year. And that's just above the poverty level, which is in the mid to low 20s. But look at what these people are worth. This is mind-boggling. We don't know what Kyrsten Sinema is worth, and Joe Manchin's worth $7.5 million. These are from their Senate disclosure forms. But Maggie Hassan, the Democrat from New Hampshire, and Jeanne Shaheen, the Democrat from New Hampshire, they're both worth $3.5 million each. John Tester, the Democrat from Montana, he's worth $3.5 million. Tom Carper's worth $7.5 million. Joe Manchin's worth $7.5 million. Angus King, the independent from Maine who voted against the $15 minimum wage, he caucuses with the Democrats. He's worth $9.5 million. And Chris Coons, the Democrat from Delaware, is worth $10 million. And by the way, has anybody noticed that Mitch McConnell's wealth, his personal wealth, has increased by $2.5 million a year every year for the last 10 years? According to his Senate disclosure forms. How do you make $2.5 million a year on a $170,000 a year salary? I don't get it. But I think it's just shameful, frankly, that these multimillionaire senators are saying, Democrats no less, are saying, no, you work 40 hours a week, you have to continue to live in poverty. I think that's very sad. And finally, down in Florida, Ron DeSantis, he was very carefully parsing his words. This is the Tampa Bay Tribune, tampabay.com. You can read all about it. At a news conference on March 4th, DeSantis chose his words carefully. He denied that the wealthy Ocean Reef community was a state site, in other words, a state vaccination site, but did not deny that he or the Florida Division of Emergency Management, which distributes vaccines, had a role in authorizing it. And it turns out that Baptist Health, the hospital where these vaccines came from, was forced to cancel, I'm quoting from the Tampa newspapers, was forced to cancel appointments for hundreds of members of the general public who had signed up to get a vaccination because they ran out of supply. Why did they run out of supply? Because they were vaccinating millionaires and multimillionaires in this exclusive high-end community who were big donors to Ron DeSantis. The plot thickens. And the Tampa Bay Times is all over.
To the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Back with your calls and more of the news of the day right after this. Stick around. It's 28 minutes, or coming up in a half a minute. It'll be 28 minutes past the hour. It's the Free Speech TV fundraising drive right here, right now. 877-378-8669. Time to help out Free Speech TV. There's a bunch of ways you can help. One, obviously, send money, right? Call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution. And we'll go through what the goodies are that you can get in exchange for that in just a moment. Number two is becoming a regular monthly sustaining contributor. That's a really good thing and a helpful thing, and that helps out in really big ways, even when it's small amounts of money, because it allows Free Speech TV to have, to do budgeting, which is like a really important thing for every organization, particularly nonprofits, small nonprofits like Free Speech TV. But number three, you can become an evangelist for Free Speech TV. We really need to crank this up. If we can double our viewership, we can, within short order, I think, double our donor base, which means we can cut in half the time for these pledge drives. And that would be just staying in the same place. Or we could keep the pledge drives a little longer and double the budget and add new programs and build out Free Speech TV. And I mean, there's just so many possibilities. And it all really comes down to having a viewership base. And so you can help with that. And it doesn't cost anything. If you're already using social media, start talking about Free Speech TV on social media. If you tweet about Free Speech TV, if I catch it, I'm not always reading it, but if I catch it, I will definitely like it. Say something nice about Free Speech TV on Facebook. That's a little harder for me to catch, but just because the page, scrolls so much. But we'll like those. But whether I like it or not, as in hitting the like button, it's still great if you can get the message out. Tell your friends about it. Figure out ways to work it into conversation. The other day, somebody wants to debate you about, cancel culture or minimum wage or whatever it may be, right? and you share some thoughts with them, and then you say, I learned about that on Free Speech TV. It's freespeech.org if you want to check it out. If you've got Dish or Direct, you can get it right on your television. Otherwise, you can get it through Apple TV, you can get it through Roku, you can get it through Hulu, you can get, there's just a bunch of ways to get it. They're all over at freespeech.org. All you have to do is go to freespeech.org and learn all about how you can get Free Speech TV, how you can watch Free Speech TV. If that's your sales pitch, right, or your promotional pitch, shall we say, then you start doing that regularly, telling people about it, probably for every 10 or 15 or 20 people you tell, maybe one of them might become a regular viewer. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and not everybody has the time to watch TV, et cetera, but the word will spread. We have to become evangelists for this network. And I say at the end of the show every day, democracy depends on you. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it, or variations on that theme. This is one of those things I'm talking about, is helping Free Speech TV grow, helping Free Speech TV expand, helping Free Speech TV reach more people. So we need to do that, number one. Number two, if we can get 300 new donors by the end of this week here, it'll unlock an extra $5,000 from Free Speech TV frontline funder Andrew in San Diego. That's important. So here are the premiums very quickly. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the official Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, you can get 2 Free Speech TV face masks and turn yourself into a Free Speech TV billboard as you're walking around. You could double mask. You can put it on the outside and wear another mask underneath it. With a $120 gift, you have 3 choices. Either the Grow the Social Change box, a wildflower seed pack, the windowsill herb garden, the new tote bag, and the Free Speech TV branded sunglasses, or the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, or with a $120 gift, the Hidden History of American Oligarchy, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, join us for a virtual meet and greet. We'll all get together on a Zoom call, and we talk about whatever you'd like. They last an hour. Typically, there's fewer than a dozen people, sometimes 8 or 10, and we do them every month, and they're just great. And with a $240 gift, if you don't want to do the Zoom call, you can get 2 copies, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, both autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box, which is the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the wildflower seed gift, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland once we are back in the studio this fall, and because I'm pretty sure by then we'll have everybody vaccinated, and I really believe things are going to be back to normal, probably by, at the latest, July, August, September, something like that. And I'm really looking forward to it. And you can come visit us here in Portland, and it'll be a great time. So call now, 877-378-8669, and start looking for ways that you can help Free Speech TV, that you can become a publicist for Free Speech TV, that you can be an evangelist for Free Speech TV and help build this television network. You can. Tag, you're it. Thanks a lot, and please call now, 877-378-8669. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. Astonishing news out of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention that has to do with the lifespan of Americans. Since World War II, the average lifespan of American men and women have continuously increased, all the way up to 78.8 years in 2019. Continuous increase. Things were getting better, more and more people were getting health care, we were making medical technology advances, there was a rather dramatic decline in smoking between the 1990s and the 2010s. All kinds of things were working together And then came Donald Trump's response to COVID-19, causing America, with 4% of the world's population, to have 20% of the world's deaths. The result of that has been extraordinary. For the first time since World War II, American life expectancy has declined. It's all over in a new video for supporters of our program over at thomhartmann.com. And welcome back. By the way, Joe Biden just sent nominated two female generals, International Women's Day, to elite 4-star commands, the Defense Department announced. And this is where it gets really weird. Quote, this is from this news story that I'm reading by Kathy Blank in World News. Quote, months after their Pentagon bosses had agreed on their promotions but held them back out of fear that President Donald Trump would reject the officers because they were women. General Jacqueline D. Van Avest of the Air Force is going to head the Transportation Command, which oversees the military's sprawling global transportation network. And Lieutenant General Laura J. Richardson of the Army is going to head the Southern Command, which oversees military activities in Latin America. And now they go to the Senate, where, we'll see if there are any Republicans who want to get all hysterical about this and say, no, you can't do that. They're women. Somehow I doubt that's going to happen, but one never knows. Anyhow, let's pick up your phone calls here. Jessica in Chicago. Hey, Jessica, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Thank you. You were thinking the exact same thoughts as me today. I did a little bit of research online and found out the results from the insurrection shows that COVID hit a record high this last Thursday in the states of Maryland, District of Columbia, and Virginia. And the hospitalizations are up 19% there, too. And I just wanted to say, with Texas and Mississippi residents, they should not be allowed to travel to other states. There are 4 different variants of the mutated in Texas. And Abbot is going to destroy our ability for a safe vaccine. Abbot is endangering the whole country's life and the ability to control the vaccine so that it works.
I agree. So, Jessica, 2 questions for you. Number 1, why do you think he's doing this? And number 2, how do we hold him accountable?
Well, I have a simple thing. I think they're all like Nazis. The Republican Party, I don't know why you would endanger someone's life. They have such a warped sense of mind on the human life. And I forget the second question.
How do we hold them accountable?
Well, that's just it. We need to. I agree with you 100%. I wish Biden would get tougher. I wish somebody would get tougher. I wish other states would say, no, we don't. I feel sorry for the people in Texas, though, that have to go through that they're innocent. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when Biden said this is Neanderthal thinking, that was about the most gentle thing he could have possibly said. What he should have said is this is murderous thinking. These decisions are going to lead to unnecessary deaths. People are going to lose their parents, their children, their brothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles. They are going to lose their relatives. They're going to lose their best friends. They're going to lose their old college buddies and roommates or high school. People are going to lose, companies are going to lose their employees because of these decisions that are being made. These are killer decisions. This is murder. This is negligent homicide. I don't see the difference between this and driving drunk or texting while you're driving and ending up hitting and killing somebody like the Attorney General of one of these Republican states did, a while ago, and then tried to lie about it. I don't see the difference between that, which actually gets prosecuted for negligent homicide or manslaughter or third-degree murder or whatever it's called in the individual states. I don't see a difference between that and what Abbott and the governor of Mississippi are doing. I fail to see the difference. I don't get it. It's amazing. Jessica, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Spot on. Will in Broomfield, Colorado. Hey, Will, what's up?
Tom, getting back to your original topic today, I think that we as liberals need to do two things to address the conservative rhetoric, which is the topic that you opened the show with. First of all, we need to acknowledge the era of debate is over. There's no point trying to persuade conservative politicians or talking heads or anything, making them listen to reason or sense or anything like that. They're beyond that. It's been that way at least since Gingrich. There's no reasoning with them because being unreasonable has been working to their advantage. And that gets to the second point. Right. What we need to do instead is rather than debate them, attack them with shame and not attack them directly because, again, they've got no conscience. They don't feel shame. We're going to attack them to make their followers feel just a little bit ashamed of what their leaders are doing. If we persuade one person in 100 that Donald Trump really was a monster, that's 730,000 people who voted for him in 2020 who are persuaded not to do so next time. And a more specific example, you were talking about Lauren Boebert earlier. I'm living in her district right now. And every day or every week, there's at least one letter pointing out what Lauren Boebert is doing and how it's bringing shame upon the people of the 3rd District in Colorado. Now, of course, we're not going to persuade her to change her mind. But after only 2 months of calling her out on the stuff that she's doing, there are 6 named Coloradoans in the 3rd District who say they're running against her in 2022. 2 of them are Republicans because people are getting wise to the notion this woman is nuts. There's no debating her. There's no making her come around to see that her position is different. So we're going to remind her voters, hey, she's a nut. You voted for her. And keep up the pressure, and we get more people like us, people willing to say, I've got a conscience, come out and oppose them. We're not going to change their minds. We need to remove them. And one way to do that is to remind their followers, decent human beings don't act like that.
Well, and now you've got this group that has these portable billboards. They had a billboard truck in D.C. They're towing billboards in Texas and I believe Florida, calling out Ted Cruz as a traitor, calling out Ron DeSantis as a killer. They were calling out Trump and the Republicans in general in D.C. I think that message and method that you're talking about, Will, I think it's being used and it's being used effectively. So spot on. Thank you. And thanks for the report from the 3rd District. It's great to hear from you. I truly appreciate it. Mike in Jacksonville, Florida. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hey, Tom. How are you doing? Can you share your perspective on the imbalance of power, the breakdown in the shared power that should be there between the Senate and the president? As we think about the issues that we're having now with McConnell's wife that's using her power, that information getting to the Trump Justice Department, but them choosing not to investigate it, while at the same time he chooses to procrastinate or delay an impeachment proceeding. Who gets to hold both of them accountable in a breakdown like that, where it seems like a pretty corrupt quid quo pro between the leaders of the 2 parts of our system?
Well, there was a criminal referral for Elaine Chao, Mitch McConnell's wife, to the Justice Department, but Bill Barr killed it. That could be repeated. That could happen again. In terms of Mitch McConnell himself, I don't know. He just got reelected. He's got another 5 years to go, 5.5 years to go. I don't have an easy answer for that one. Do you? Hello?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really either. That's why I kind of want to talk to somebody that's more of an expert. But it seems like something that needs more attention, right? And as he's shamefully sitting at a resort now, knowing that proceedings for several other things, right? There's a whole list of things that are worthy of impeachment besides the things that we chose to go with. But it seems shameful knowing that just the things that we did choose got procrastinated. And then after the fact, the justification for not impeaching was that he's no longer in office. Right? It seems like a broken system all around. And somebody should have, somewhere in this checks and balance system, there should be a check or a balance for the two leaders kind of giving each other the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know what I'm saying?
And this is around the impeachment. Yeah, well, and McConnell was right there with Trump, basically, denying the danger of COVID and everything else. I mean, I think at the very least, the media, the previous caller, this idea of shaming them is a place to start. And I'm just not seeing it, which surprises me. Mike, thank you for the call. I mean, on the media that is this program, I've been calling them out for some time, and I'm explicitly doing it today. But in general, I don't know. We'll see.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's your media support group for we, the people of the United States of America, all of us. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Randy in Tempe, Arizona. Hey, Randy, what's on your mind today? Thanks for watching us on YouTube.
Hey, Tom. I got a question about democracy and whether it's worth preserving like the one we have right now, and whether maybe we ought to move towards something like more direct democracy. Because I know in Arizona, whenever something worth passing has like really been passed, it's been through initiatives and referendums, just like our past marijuana bill, just like Prop 208, which just passed, which is one of the biggest raises to teachers and funding, which we're in a state where we're usually 50th in education. And right now our electorate in Arizona is trying to find a loophole to overturn that funding bill, specifically because of Doug Ducey and his Republicans. So I'm just kind of noticing that a lot of the better deals we get are typically from direct voter action rather than having to work within the state. And I don't know. Sometimes I think it might be like a generational thing between progressives and leftists, but I love democracy. I just don't it's hard to protect it when there's Democrats like Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin that we have to get behind sometimes.
Yeah.
Who have the wrong ideas.
I think there's a larger problem, or maybe a floor underneath the problems that you're identifying, Randy, that you're missing, and that is the corrupting power of money in politics. We used to have laws to keep money out of politics, or to at least regulate money in politics to the point where individual billionaires, individual industries, individual lobbyists could not have the outsized influence that they have now. Because I've seen good ballot measures go down in flames. For example, in California, you had one that would have required Uber to start considering their workers as employees. Yeah, all it did was give them things like workman's comp and unemployment insurance and stuff like that. But just basic stuff that anybody who's working full-time should be entitled to. And it had broad popular support until Uber and Lyft came in and poured, tens of millions of dollars into California media, and suddenly opinions changed.
That's a great point.
And we saw the same thing with a carbon tax in Washington State. Had over 70% popular support in the state until the fossil fuel industry came in and poured tens of millions of dollars into the media. So direct democracy, like you're talking about, is I'm not opposed to it. It's a fine thing. We've got it here in Oregon as well, and it's done some good stuff, but it's also done some bad stuff. And representative democracy, we see victories. In fact, we just saw one last week with the COVID relief bill. But both of them have been corrupted equally by money and politics, and that's what we got to get under control.
But with like the COVID relief bill, I'm not really sure. I mean, is that necessary? It's a victory for some people, and for the people who need it, I'm really grateful they're going to get it. But I mean, the most important parts of the bill were scrapped because the majority of the Senate has a different opinion than the majority of Americans who do support a $15 minimum wage.
Yeah, I'm not sure the minimum wage was the most important part of that bill, because it didn't. I mean, the whole point of the parliamentarian was that the minimum wage has nothing to do with the COVID epidemic. And if you're positioning this as a COVID relief bill, and there were other technical arguments, but that was the big one, and I think that's a fairly cogent one. I think that they need to bring up a higher minimum wage at the very least. But Randy, really where we need to start is money in politics, and that means overturning the Citizens United decisions of Buckley, Bellotti, and Citizens United. Randy, I got to run. Thanks. The hidden history of the war on voting tells how the GOP has been stealing elections for decades and will again this year unless we stop them. We have a new video up over at ThomHartmann.com about conspiracy theories. Abby Richards came up with a kind of a hierarchy of conspiracies, maybe a variation on the old Maslow hierarchy. And it goes from actual conspiracies to maybe this was a conspiracy, maybe not, we have questions, to this is kind of crazy stuff, but who knows, flying saucers, for example, to actual science denial, conspiracy theories that actually serve to promote the interests of a particular industry or wealthy individuals, to the totally crazy stuff, the flat earth, the reptilian overlords and all that kind of thing, conspiracy theories that can do tremendous damage. And, one of those being one of the conspiracy theories that, brought two Republicans into Congress this year. So anyhow, I lay the whole thing out with a new video for our supporters over at ThomHartmann.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you and Maureen in Geneva, Illinois. Hey, Maureen, what's up?
Yes, I'm calling about the trial that should be going on for George Floyd very soon. And
yeah, they put it off by a day. We're going to have a guest on about it tomorrow. She was scheduled for today, but they moved the trial back one day.
Darn.
They're thinking of adding another murder charge to it.
Well, if not that, then another issue is that we should look into all of the Catholic radio stations popping up all over the country, something called ETWN and Relevant Radio here in the Midwest, continuously finding reasons to criticize the Democrats and apparently being racist and not being ashamed of it. And constantly talking about Nancy Pelosi and her sagging boobs. This on a supposedly Catholic radio station.
You're kidding.
Somebody should target these supposed Catholic radio stations and find out just who is contributing to them and keeping them alive.
Yeah. I went through a real religious streak in my life back in my early 20s when Louise and I were living in Detroit. And I was working at RCA, and I was driving around a lot, and commuting and whatnot. And there was a Catholic station that did a 15-minute read of the Rosary every morning. And I had a rosary, and I just used to recite it along with these guys. They never talked about politics. They never even talked about abortion, hot button issues. I mean, it was always just kind of pretty straightforward, like going to church stuff, and which I found frankly pleasant. But I'm seeing this phenomenon, Maureen, that the televangelists have become right-wing televangelists. And I don't know about the Catholic stations, but there are a lot of Protestant religious stations across the country that have become just another arm of right-wing hate radio. So instead of just 1,500 right-wing hate radio stations in the country, we now have an additional somewhere between 700 and 1,000 right-wing religious stations in the country. And they're a force. They are an actual force, and they are moving the dial in terms of electoral politics. And they're doing it with a nonprofit status, which is mind-boggling. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's up?
Hi. I want to know, where were the free speech snowflake Confederate Republicans when Dan Rather, Mary Mapes, and Phil Donahue were canceled? And dare I say, I also was canceled when they started systematically not allowing me to call right-wing talk radio. And most recently, most of the news networks that had internet comment lines on their regarding their stories, they canceled all of that, so we can't even make comments on the stories that the right-wing news media feeds to us all the time. And these Republicans, these hypocritical Republicans, and they're crybabies, these snowflakes, said nothing when they were canceling Dan Rather, a major network news anchor.
Yeah, and you know why they canceled him, Larry? They canceled him because he had evidence, and you know, it turned out that the source of the evidence might have been a little dicey. But after he got fired, we discovered that the evidence was actually 100% true. That George W. Bush went AWOL for over a year, which, by the way, is at that point you have during time of war you have committed a crime that you can be imprisoned for the rest of your life for. That George W. Bush went AWOL from the Champaign unit of the Texas Air National Guard that his daddy got him into so that he wouldn't have to go to Vietnam, because he was going to be drafted. I mean, that was Dan Rather's big sin. And Phil Donahue, of course, was opposed to the war in Iraq, and General Electric owned MSNBC at the time. And they are a major defense contractor and probably saw that war as an opportunity to make some serious bucks. And so they canceled him. So, yeah, I'm with you, Larry. Where were these snowflakes back then? Totally. Mike in Simi Valley. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hey, love your show, Tom. I want to mention to you about Manchin. I don't understand exactly where he stands. I know he has friends across the aisle, but the heavies that really call the shots, does he relate to them, or just a few that don't call the shots?
I think that what's going on here, Mike, is, forgive the interruption, but we're going to hit a break here in 45 seconds. I think what's going on is that Manchin knows that a large chunk, if not maybe even the majority of West Virginia citizens, at least those who vote, watch Fox News. And for years, Joe Manchin has been a regular on Fox News. And so he has to have a little bit of Fox News friendly stuff, or they're just going to trash him. And in fact, it was on Fox News over the weekend where he said, if we're going to change the rules of the filibuster so that people have to stand there and it has to be a little painful, that's okay with me. That's a big step forward for Joe Manchin. But, keep in mind, he's representing a state, West Virginia, that Donald Trump won by over 20 points.
Yes. Well, and one last thing I just want to mention is the fact that right now what's going on, it seems there's so much misrepresentation and there's so much ignorance and violence. And, those signs that you're talking about, that's a start. Hopefully that keeps on going.
Yeah, I agree. Mike, thank you.
Anyway.
Thanks for the call. And a great question. And thank you very much. We're hitting the top of the hour here. We'll continue with the news of the day and your calls. Kind of a weird conspiracy theory I want to bring up here about Andrew Cuomo and the Republican Party and Donald Trump right after this break. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Tom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teethhealth.com, code Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Tom. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code Tom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Tom.
We say fight back!
It's the Free Speech TV fundraising drive right here, right now. 877-378-8669. Time to help out Free Speech TV. There's a bunch of ways you can help. One, obviously, send money, right? Call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution. And we'll go through what the goodies are that you can get in exchange for that in just a moment. Number two is becoming a regular monthly sustaining contributor. That's a really good thing and a helpful thing, and that helps out in really big ways, even when it's small amounts of money, because it allows Free Speech TV to have, to do budgeting, which is like a really important thing for every organization, particularly nonprofits, small nonprofits like Free Speech TV. But number three, you can become an evangelist for Free Speech TV. We really need to crank this up. If we can double our viewership, we can, within short order, I think, double our donor base, which means we can cut in half the time for these pledge drives. And that would be just staying in the same place. Or we could keep the pledge drives a little longer and double the budget and add new programs and build out Free Speech TV. And I mean, there's just so many possibilities. And it all really comes down to having a viewership base. And so you can help with that. And it doesn't cost anything. If you're already using social media, start talking about Free Speech TV on social media. If you tweet about Free Speech TV, if I catch it, I mean, I'm not always reading it, but if I catch it, I will definitely like it. Say something nice about Free Speech TV on Facebook. That's a little harder for me to catch, but just because the page, scrolls so much. But we'll like those. But whether I like it or not, I mean, as in hitting the like button, it's still great if you can get the message out. Tell your friends about it. Figure out ways to work it into conversation. The other day, somebody wants to debate you about, cancel culture or minimum wage or whatever it may be, right? And you share some thoughts with them, and then you say, I learned about that on Free Speech TV. It's freespeech.org if you want to check it out. If you've got Dish or Direct, you can get it right on your television. Otherwise, you can get it through Apple TV, you can get it through Roku, you can get it through Hulu, there's just a bunch of ways to get it. They're all over at freespeech.org. All you have to do is go to freespeech.org and learn all about how you can get Free Speech TV, how you can watch Free Speech TV. If that's your sales pitch, right, or your promotional pitch, shall we say, then you start doing that regularly, telling people about it, probably for every 10 or 15 or 20 people you tell, maybe one of them might become a regular viewer. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and not everybody has the time to watch TV, et cetera, but the word will spread. We have to become evangelists for this network. And I say at the end of the show every day, democracy depends on you. Get out there, get active, tag you're it, or variations on that theme. This is one of those things I'm talking about. Is helping Free Speech TV grow, helping Free Speech TV expand, helping Free Speech TV reach more people. So we need to do that, number one. Number two, if we can get 300 new donors by the end of this week here, it'll unlock an extra $5,000 from Free Speech TV frontline funder Andrew in San Diego. That's important. So here are the premiums, very quickly. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the official Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, you can get 2 Free Speech TV face masks and turn yourself into a Free Speech TV billboard as you're walking around. You could double mask. You can put it on the outside and wear another mask underneath it. With a $120 gift, you have 3 choices. Either the Grow the Social Change box, a wildflower seed pack, the windowsill herb garden, the new tote bag, and the Free Speech TV branded sunglasses, or the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, or with a $120 gift, the Hidden History of American Oligarchy, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, join us for a virtual meet and greet. We'll all get together on a Zoom call, and we talk about whatever you'd like. They last an hour. Typically, there's fewer than a dozen people, sometimes 8 or 10, and we do them every month, and they're just great. And with the $240 gift, if you don't want to do the Zoom call, you can get 2 copies, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, both autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box, which is the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the wildflower seed gift, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland once we are back in the studio this fall. And because I'm pretty sure by then we'll have everybody vaccinated, and I really believe things are going to be back to normal, probably by, at the latest, July, August, September, something like that. And I'm really looking forward to it. And you can come visit us here in Portland, and it'll be a great time. So call now, 877-378-8669, and start looking for ways that you can help Free Speech TV, that you can become a publicist for Free Speech TV, that you can be an evangelist for Free Speech TV and help build this television network. You can. Tag, you're it. Thanks a lot, and please call now, 877-378-8669.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. An interesting conspiracy theory, as it were, laid out over on Democratic Underground and about Andrew Cuomo. And I thought, at first I thought I read this and I thought, nah. And then I started thinking about it and it was like, all right. Now, first of all, my opinion of Andrew Cuomo has always been that he's not the cleanest politician out there, let's put it that way. That he kind of epitomizes the machine politician. Yes, he's a Democrat. And, a lot of us are inclined to say, well, he may be an SOB, but he's my SOB. And I've kind of taken that position up to this point, as these accusations have come out about his hitting on women. Now, he hasn't been married for he's been single for the last 15 years. He broke up with his girlfriend, but that's no justification for hitting on people that work for you. There's a power relationship there that's very different from if they had the same power and they were just somebody flirting with you in the workplace, which is increasingly or largely now also verboten. Louise and I were watching old Cagney and Lacey shows, the old TV cop show from the mid-1980s. We're up to the season that's in 1986. And the male cops are constantly hitting on Cagney, who's attractive, but they're equals. And she blows it off, and it never goes beyond that. And but even that today would not be tolerated in a workplace. But so anyhow, he's got that problem. He's also got this problem of did he or did he not undercount nursing home deaths? He's saying that, if I understand this correctly, that basically if people died in a nursing home, they were counted as a nursing home death. If they died in a hospital, they were counted as a hospital death. And there's nothing wrong with that, that he wasn't trying to hide something. On the other hand, he's got people who worked for him who say, and some documentation that says he was trying to hide things. But, so there's all that. And like I said, I'm no fan of Andrew Cuomo. I'd much rather see a Democrat running the state. I mean, that New York State politics are so corrupt. You've got Democrats who've been voting with Republicans in the state legislature in New York for years. I mean, it's basically, an old boys club, and it's largely run by the lobbyists. And yeah, we can blame the Supreme Court for a lot of this, et cetera, but still, that's what's going on. But all that said, here's what AP Calc wrote over at DU this morning that made me go, what? AP wrote, I have this idea that the R's, especially Trump, are behind these revelations about Cuomo, either to destroy Cuomo's further political chances as payback or to get him out of the way so someone can pardon Trump for New York crimes. Trump is also in New York City today. it is smart for Cuomo to call for an investigation and not resign and not allow himself to be frankened. What does anybody else think? And, you get a whole bunch of responses. I had the same idea. No, Cuomo's critics have been solid Democrats. Maybe he's just a jerk. I've been having the same idea. I believe the women. I mean, all these kind of responses. But the fact of the matter is that it's unlikely that Trump will be charged with any federal crimes, at least that we know of right now, although tax evasion is a possibility. But if he's charged with state crimes or city crimes in New York City, Letitia James, the Attorney General for New York State, is going after him in a big way. And Cyrus Vance, the district attorney for the city of New York, is going after him in a big way. They both impaneled grand juries. They're both fixing to nail him. The same thing's happening down in Georgia, by the way. It's being run by the district attorney of the city of Atlanta. But that pardon power that presidents have is also in most states. Now, it's up to the state constitution, and I believe that there are some states where the governor does not have pardon power, but I'm pretty sure that New York State does. So if they can get Cuomo out and get a Republican in, or even a Democrat who's Trump friendly, and there are a few such Democrats, and then Trump gets convicted of tax fraud and money laundering and real estate fraud by the New York, by New York prosecutors or by New York City prosecutors. The governor could pardon him. Is there a bigger game going on here? I frankly have no idea, and I'm very skeptical. But I thought I'd share it with you and get your thoughts on it. And also in the other big thing that I wanted to mention is, and this goes back to the conversation that we had with Parker Molloy from Media Matters for America in the previous hour. This whole culture war thing that the Republicans are doing. Let's not talk about the issues. Let's not talk about unemployment benefits. Let's not talk about the minimum wage. Let's not talk about health care. Let's not talk about COVID. Let's talk about Dr. Seuss. Let's talk about Mr. Potato Head. Now, why are they doing that? I have my own personal theory about this, and I wrote about it on Saturday, actually, on my blog. And that is that there are three kinds of capitalism that are practiced in this world in a major way. And frankly, I only know of these three kinds, and feel free to enlighten me if I'm missing something here. There is regulated capitalism, which is practiced all across Europe, Scandinavia, in the United States, in most of your countries that are considered advanced democracies. And that is, where capitalism, the game, capitalism, after all, is just a game, right? It's a game played with money, but it's a game played by people with money, with the goal of making money. And there are rules to that game. And those rules are called the regulations. So you have regulated capitalism as number one. That's what we practice here. Then secondly, you have communist capitalism, which is being practiced by Vietnam and China right now. And they're both exploding their economies. They are growing like there's no tomorrow. But with communist capitalism, you destroy freedom of speech, personal autonomy, and democracy, small d democracy. And then the third kind of capitalism that is practiced widely in the world today, that you find mostly in Russia and Turkey and and throughout the third world, and Hungary, I call gangster capitalism. And you could call it our oligarchic capitalism, but it's basically where the government is run by gangsters. And the capitalist system, the capitalism, all the major companies are run by gangsters. And they collaborate as a gang. And I'm talking real gangs, like organized crime, like they kill people that compete with them. And the Democratic Party still holds to this idea of regulated capitalism here that we have here in the United States. But the Republican Party has gone all in on gangster capitalism, on the Russian model or the Hungarian model or the Turkish model. I mean, they're all in on this. We don't need no stinking elections. We don't need no stinking voters. We don't need no stinking regulations. And this really began in 1981 with Reagan and his whole deregulation thing. And so I'm thinking that that's what's going on. That they have decided to abandon the idea of small d democracy, or as the founders used to refer to it, small r republicanism, in other words, a republic. They have abandoned the idea of regulated capitalism, a fair form of capitalism where anybody can enter the marketplace. And they've completely embraced gangster capitalism and the distortion of government that comes with it. What say you?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And that's why they're talking about Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head, because, I mean, who wants to come out and say, hey, we're all in favor of oligarchy and gangster capitalism? And welcome back. Bob in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Hey, Bob, what's on your mind today?
Yes, Tom, I was wondering if you're familiar with Norm Ornstein's article he recently wrote in the Washington Post about various workarounds for the filibuster, if we can't get rid of it, how we can really inconvenience, beyond the Jimmy Stewart type of inconvenience, to really make it hard for the Republicans to hold back H.R. 1 and other critical things that we need to get through. I didn't. Yeah,
I read that over the weekend. There was a blog post someplace that referenced it, and it was in the Washington Post, wasn't it? Or was it the New York Times?
Yeah, and then he was also on Lawrence O'Donnell, which prompted me to Google, and then I came across the Washington Post article. I think it's valuable to get out there. I wanted to mainly call to let your listeners know, because if Manchin's not willing to get rid of it, we need to at least inconvenience him, because we all know the consequences if we don't get rid of the filibuster.
Yeah, I agree. And it looks like Manchin is bending under the pressure. I think that I don't know if this is true of Kristen Sinema. I think she's so badly misreading the public. When she came out and voted no on the $15 minimum wage, she did the John McCain thumbs down. But John McCain did that to save Obamacare, to save health care for about 30 million Americans. She did it to take away a raise from about 20 million Americans. And I'm not sure it's playing well in Arizona. I'm sorry?
Yeah, that was a false equivalency, certainly, if she was trying to emulate McCain under, I agree with what you just said. It was sad to see. But we need to. And
when she was rising up through the ranks, she was Miss Progressive. I mean, she was, all in on the minimum wage. In fact, an old tweet of hers is being retweeted now from 3 or 4 years ago, where she was basically saying, if we can't afford to pay, non-poverty wages, companies shouldn't be in business. And she started out as a progressive. She had the progressive base behind her, and a lot of people donated to her campaign to get her into Congress. And I don't think that she's going to get that kind of support going around the next cycle, which concerns me, because that might put a Republican up against her. On the other hand, she may be facing a serious challenge from a progressive in a primary. Time will tell. But I saw Norm Ornstein's piece, and I thought it was excellent, and I agree with you that it does need to get out and needs to get a wider audience. Bob, thanks a lot for the call. Heidi in Bellevue, Washington. Hey, Heidi, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I wanted to talk about Meghan Markle's son not being given the title Prince, and that was really that's actually under the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917 under George V. And one of the reasons it was passed because of World War I. There were too many princes and princesses because the title just kept going down through the generations, and a lot of those actually had German citizenship. So under George V, they passed an act that you could only be titled prince or princess if you were grandchild of the sovereign or in direct line, such as
you know.
Right. So if Charles becomes the king, Harry and Meghan's child becomes a prince. But
right,
apparently
exactly. No, he does. He does. He has to. I mean, it's a law in England.
Interesting.
It's the law.
Interesting. Heidi, thank you for that. I didn't know about that. Thank you so much for that backstory. We'll be right back. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. You know, there's so much news coming out of the Trump administration, so much corruption, so many crimes. Oh, you know, now they're letting people kill endangered species. Now they're selling off, you know, the Arctic National Wildlife Preserve, refuge rather, to big oil companies. Oh, now they're they're authorizing pesticides that we know cause birth defects and damage to children. It's just, you know, step after step after step that it's so easy to forget that back in July of 2020, it was reported that Jared Kushner and Mike Pence's nephew, John Pence, created a couple of LLCs, American-Made Media Consultants Corporation, that took $617 million of Trump campaign cash, and nobody knows where it went. I'm telling you, these guys are professional grifters. We need to keep an eye on it. There's a whole rant about it over at thomhartmann.com for supporters of our program. 21 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. So, gangster capitalism, pardons in New York, all kinds of stuff going on here. John in Danville, Illinois. Hey, John, thanks for waiting so long. I appreciate your call. What's on your mind today?
Well, somebody needs to be held accountable for this mass murder and conspiracy. I think Chuck Schumer needs to take Moscow Mitch McConnell's playbook and take over the Senate like he would do. And I think Trump and all the Republicans need to be held accountable. So my thing is, I think they need to get the armed forces involved and bring every one of them to trial. That's what I'm thinking, because I think it's mass genocide on the American people. And one more thing, I believe you need Jamie Harrison from the Democratic Party to buy up these broadcasting stations, Tom. I've been keeping up with that, and I think that's very important.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Democratic Party has the resources or if they could even legally do that. I don't know, but Jamie Harrison's a good man, and he is the head of the DNC right now. In fact, we used to have Tom Perez on all the time when he was the head of the DNC. We should probably try to get Jamie Harrison back on, or get him on. I'm not sure if he's ever even been on the program. But he's a good man, and he's doing some good work. John, excellent suggestions all. Thank you very much for the call, and thanks for sharing that with us. I agree with you, by the way. We need to hold somebody accountable for 500,000 dead Americans. Nicholas in San Cristobal, Mexico. Hey, Nicholas, what's up?
Tom, how you doing?
Good.
As you started out the program today saying, boy, the news didn't stop over the weekend. A quick thought vis-a-vis your three forms of capitalism. I think I might add monopolistic at this point to your first one and sort of modify it as to unregulated capitalism, which is running rampant worldwide and just wrecking everything. Yes to Harrison. Yeah, I'd sure love to hear Harrison. And what I really called about is something that I think has been grotesquely overlooked in all the reporting of the COVID relief bill. In my opinion, one of the very most important things in that bill is that $300 child credit per month per child.
You mean
I think will do.
Yeah, $3,000 a year, right?
What is it, $3,600 a year, something like that?
It's $3,600 if the child is under 6 years old, and $3,000 if they're between 7 and 18, as I recall.
per year you're talking about, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, right. I think that's going to have, significant effect on probably one of the greatest disgraces in the country, and that is the percentage of children that live in poverty. Something that is
it's going to cut it in half.
Not discussed nearly enough. Go ahead.
No, it literally, this piece of legislation that just passed is going to cut child poverty in the United States in half. That additional $3,600 or $3,000, depending on the age of the child, and keep in mind, most families have more than one child. That money is going to raise those families' income above the poverty level, and you're going to lift half of the children in America living in poverty right now out of poverty in the next 6 months or so, or in the next year.
Right. When I read that figure in the New York Times this morning, and your screener, your call screener, today, agreed with me. She said, wow, when she read it as well. She was like, yes, finally, at last, we can undo at least a goodly percentage of this incredible disgrace. And I just wish it were being discussed. Well, I haven't heard any mention of all mainstream media, of course. And it's just something that needs to be talked about. I think at least as much as the $15 an hour wage, which of course should be 20 at least, but apart from that, I just thought I'd call and encourage everyone to give this more consideration, because I think it's an absolute, enormously important change, which has been needed for, 40 years at least, forever probably.
Yeah. I'm with you. There are a bunch of things in this bill. I actually printed out a list of them this morning, and I don't know if I can easily get to it. No, I can't. But there's a bunch of stuff that's in this legislation that I'll go through it tomorrow. People really need to know about, and I don't think most people do know about, Nicholas, because and to a certain extent, the Republicans, their big complaint about it is it's not all about COVID. And no, lifting children out of poverty is not about COVID, but it's something that should have been done for a long, long time. And one of the things I thought was notable was that I was not hearing Republicans screaming specifically about that child tax credit. In fact, you had Mitt Romney in favor of it. The Mormons, who have big families, they're like, hey, this is cool, right? So anyhow, Nicholas, thank you for the call. It's always nice to hear from you, and thank you for helping moderate our YouTube chat room. I do appreciate it. Nicholas in San Cristobal, Mexico. We will be right back. It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. A place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, not a chance. Supreme Court is wrong.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Back with more of your calls in just a moment, or actually right after this break. We'll be right back. It's the Free Speech TV fundraising drive right here, right now. 877-378-8669. Time to help out Free Speech TV. There's a bunch of ways you can help. One, obviously, send money, right? Call now, 877-378-8669, and make a contribution. And we'll go through what the goodies are that you can get in exchange for that in just a moment. Number two is becoming a regular monthly sustaining contributor. That's a really good thing and a helpful thing, and that helps out in really big ways, even when it's small amounts of money, because it allows Free Speech TV to have, to do budgeting, which is like a really important thing for every organization, particularly nonprofits, small nonprofits like Free Speech TV. But number three, you can become an evangelist for Free Speech TV. We really need to crank this up. If we can double our viewership, we can, within short order, I think, double our donor base, which means we can cut in half the time for these pledge drives. And that would be just staying in the same place. Or we could keep the pledge drives a little longer and double the budget and add new programs and build out Free Speech TV. And I mean, there's just so many possibilities. And it all really comes down to having a viewership base. And so you can help with that. And it doesn't cost anything. If you're already using social media, start talking about Free Speech TV on social media. If you tweet about Free Speech TV, if I catch it, I mean, I'm not always reading it, but if I catch it, I will definitely like it. Say something nice about Free Speech TV on Facebook. That's a little harder for me to catch, but just because the page, scrolls so much. But we'll like those. But whether I like it or not, I mean, as in hitting the like button, it's still great if you can get the message out. Tell your friends about it. Figure out ways to work it into conversation. The other day, somebody wants to debate you about, cancel culture or minimum wage or whatever it may be, right? And you share some thoughts with them, and then you say, I learned about that on Free Speech TV. It's freespeech.org if you want to check it out. If you've got Dish or Direct, you can get it right on your television. Otherwise, you can get it through Apple TV, you can get it through Roku, you can get it through Hulu, there's just a bunch of ways to get it. They're all over at freespeech.org. All you have to do is go to freespeech.org and learn all about how you can get Free Speech TV, how you can watch Free Speech TV. If that's your sales pitch, right, or your promotional pitch, shall we say, then you start doing that regularly, telling people about it, probably for every 10 or 15 or 20 people you tell, maybe one of them might become a regular viewer. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and not everybody has the time to watch TV, et cetera, but the word will spread. We have to become evangelists for this network. And I say at the end of the show every day, democracy depends on you. Get out there, get active, tag you're it, or variations on that theme. This is one of those things I'm talking about. Is helping Free Speech TV grow, helping Free Speech TV expand, helping Free Speech TV reach more people. So we need to do that, number one. Number two, if we can get 300 new donors by the end of this week here, it'll unlock an extra $5,000 from Free Speech TV frontline funder Andrew in San Diego. So that's important. So here are the premiums, very quickly. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the official Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, you can get 2 Free Speech TV face masks and turn yourself into a Free Speech TV billboard as you're walking around. You could double mask and put it on the outside and wear another mask underneath it. With a $120 gift, you have 3 choices. Either the Grow the Social Change box, a wildflower seed pack, the windowsill herb garden, the new tote bag, and the Free Speech TV branded sunglasses, or the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, or with a $120 gift, the Hidden History of American Oligarchy, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, join us for a virtual meet and greet. We'll all get together on a Zoom call, and we talk about whatever you'd like. They last an hour. Typically, there's fewer than a dozen people, sometimes 8 or 10, and we do them every month, and they're just great. And with a $240 gift, if you don't want to do the Zoom call, you can get 2 copies, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, both autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box, which is the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the wildflower seed gift, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland once we are back in the studio this fall, and because I'm pretty sure by then we'll have everybody vaccinated, and I really believe things are going to be back to normal, probably by, at the latest, July, August, September, something like that. And I'm really looking forward to it. And you can come visit us here in Portland, and it'll be a great time. So call now, 877-378-8669, and start looking for ways that you can help Free Speech TV, that you can become a publicist for Free Speech TV, that you can be an evangelist for Free Speech TV and help build this television network. You can. Tag you're it. Thanks a lot, and please call now, 877-378-8669. The Hidden History of Monopoly tells how Robert Bork, that guy from the Reagan era, transformed corporate America and destroyed the American dream. So remember back in 2020 when in California, Uber and Lyft were pouring all kinds of money into Prop 22, which basically would allow them to continue claiming that their drivers weren't actually employers of Uber. They were actually contract workers. They were all independent small businesses, and therefore the company didn't have to pay for unemployment insurance, didn't have to pay for workman's compensation if somebody got injured, didn't have to offer them any health insurance. In fact, basically couldn't even do it. And there's a whole bunch of other benefits that are associated and protections that you actually get, state and federal protections that you get as an employee that you do not have available to you as a contractor. Well, it passed because of millions of dollars from Uber, and now the fallout is happening. Companies across California are starting to fire their workers and telling them, we'll hire you back. I give examples in our new video over at thomhartmann.com. Gabby. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And let's see here. Randy in Ottawa, Iowa. Hey, Randy, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Tom. I'm reading or looking for the exact deal in relationship to the interstate cross-check that was found not constitutional. Now, here in Iowa, they just passed something called SOS, shall verify states' voter registration files with similar files in other states. This bill also requires the SOS to use information from Electronic Registration Information Center to look for in-state duplicates, cross-state matches, deaths, etc. The SOS is already doing a lot of this. So I haven't heard, I looked at Greg Palast's website, and I haven't heard anything about that. And I kind of wanted to see if you had heard anything, or so that you could keep an eye out for it.
I haven't. I don't know anything about it.
You haven't heard a thing?
Yeah.
Would you mind, the next time Greg's on, would you ask him about that for me?
Yeah. You know, this is directly tied to interstate cross-check?
Well, no, it's a different, it has an acronym, it's ERIC is what they call it. Electronic Registration Information Center, to look for in-state duplicates, cross-state matches, deaths, etc. The SOS is already doing a lot of this. Now, the SOS is Secretary of State shall verify states' voter registration files. So there's something going on that I don't know that is constitutional, but basically I understand it at this point is that interstate cross-check has morphed into something else as and the Republicans in Iowa have just passed it. The governor has not signed it yet. So if we could get Greg Palast to look into this to where we could have something, a better understanding of it, I'm going to look into it myself. We've got other crazy stuff that's going on with the conservatives here at Des Moines as well. And they're trying to force Google to let Donald Trump post whatever he wants. And I wrote my congressman today and told him, I said, that would be like telling a business when somebody abuses the truth or abuses their rights on their platform, for them, they should be able to refuse service to somebody who abuses their platform. And that's what Google is doing to, and some of these other outfits are doing to Trump and the right-wing propaganda machine. So that's a law that they're trying to get passed here as well, on top of vouchers. So, at any rate, I thank you so much for the time, Tom, and I'm sorry I didn't call about something that you were up on.
Well, these things are happening in state after state all across the country right now, Randy. But you know, this is pretty grody stuff. This is bad. Randy, thank you for the call. Yep. I appreciate it. Steve in Phoenix. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good afternoon, Tom. You know, I think what's going on here with the governor of New York, there's something, I agree, there's something very nefarious. Also, you know, Trump does have the blood of 450,000 people's dead bodies from his lack of COVID response. But with Cuomo, we got a shadow government going on here. Trump, something was really skitsy with this thing, and I noticed it a couple of days ago. I started thinking something doesn't smell right. And he obviously does not want to get prosecuted. You get a Republican in there, that'll drop the charges on him and stuff like that. And also this mask mandate, or the openings of these red states, Texas, Mississippi, and all that. I think we got a shadow government going on where Trump, he's putting pressure on all these Republican governors to open these states back up. And you know, Arizona's starting to open up more now too, unfortunately. And I think that's what's going on down there. And I still feel, and I've said this on your show before, all roads with Trump do lead back to Vladimir Putin as well. And Putin wanted the U.S. to fail. He's mad at us for taking down the USSR. And it was more Americans can die and stuff like that. That makes us a weaker country and all that. That's just, you know, some of my thoughts. And that truly needs to be investigated.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all, and it's where this thing is going to go is just a huge challenge. And so you agree that you think Trump is behind the Cuomo stuff?
I think something funny is going on there. Yeah, I think very possibly. I agree. In fact, I even sent an email to some friends on the weekend and suggested this same fact. I don't trust it. Something don't smell right to me, you know?
Yeah.
At any rate,
I'm with you.
I know you want to get other people in, but thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Mike in Chicago. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind?
I'm just going to have to follow up with the previous caller. I agree. I find it kind of odd that the one person that doesn't seem to have been brought up, which would, to me, be an obvious person who brought this whole Cuomo stuff up, would be Roger Stone. I mean, we have that Klein 9 episode with Elliot Spitzer. I mean, what's to say? He gets his pardon, and then a few weeks later, all of a sudden, we're getting news about Cuomo.
You know, it is kind of Spitzer-ish, and it turns out that the whole Spitzer thing was being coordinated by Roger Stone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I don't put it past this guy, and, you know, I don't know if they're going to do any investigations. I don't know if they can, you know, kind of like look into any of Stone's dealings in the time since he's been, I guess, released. So see if he, you know, get any phone records or anything like that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You know, my first inclination was to blow off this theory, but you're reminding me of Elliot Spitzer, and that, you know, everybody at the time thought, oh my God, what a scandal. But it turns out that Stone, or one of his associates, he was working on behalf of a billionaire who hated Spitzer because Spitzer was prosecuting him. And, you know, he broke federal law, accessing, there was a whole, you know, documentary made about this, client number 9 or client number 7 or whatever it was, client number 13. However, he was identified the federal documents. And it's a pretty shocking documentary if you watch it. And there's Roger Stone bragging about, yeah, I took down the governor of New York. That's amazing. Mike, thank you. That's entirely possible. Susan in Saratoga Springs, New York. You live in New York, Susan. What do you think?
Oh, well, Tom, you know, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Tom, and listen to you. I thought this about Cuomo a week ago, and I had shared it with some people on Facebook, and I do believe that there's something nefarious going on with this Cuomo. Elise Stefanik is a representative for me. I'm in upstate New York, and she wants to run for governor. So does Tom Reed, and they're both very strong Trump supporters. So I can see, maybe I wouldn't believe there was a payoff for these young women, because all of a sudden they came out all at once. And it was a long time. I mean, the Me Too movement, it's been going on for quite a while. Why didn't they come out sooner?
Yeah.
And also,
go ahead.
With the cancel culture that we have right now, I mean, it reminds me of Hitler almost, like burning books. I mean, are we going to just take everything away that was from a different period of time, that was a different culture then? Well,
government has had nothing to do with this, Susan. It was Dr. Seuss's family's foundation that decided to take out of print the pictures that portrayed blacks and Chinese in a very negative light. It was Hasbro Toy Company a year ago that decided to make Mr. Potato Head into Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head and whatever kind of potato head you want. I mean, the canceling is not going on at the level of government. So, culture changes, but I don't think that, I just don't think that any of this hysteria that's going on over on the Trump side is worth it.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Or I shouldn't call it the Trump side, the right-wing side, as it were. It's 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back. And welcome back. David in Monterey, California. Hey, David, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I want to talk about accountability. You're talking a lot about that, but the one thing that you haven't mentioned is that in recent days, what happens is that somebody's caught doing something. They look at somebody else and say, "Look at that guy." It's like the virus. The virus went out of hand here in America. Trump sit down there and started talking China virus, or Texas, where people were freezing to death, and suddenly they started talking about immigration and about how they're letting all these immigrants in with the virus. And now they took away the safeguards against that virus there in Texas and other states, and the number of deaths that happened during Trump is, right now we have a virus that can mutate, and if it mutates into something that the vaccine can't stop, or it mutates into something more deadly, they're going to be pointing at Biden and saying, "Look at his response. Look at his." But instead of taking accountability for something, we seem to be in America blaming every day. I'll talk about something Trump did. They'll say, look at this guy over here, or look at this over here. They'll look at the virus, immigration, Dr. Seuss. I think we're getting insane in this country. We're not going about facts or about evidence, but we're wanting to blame everybody else or look at them, not me.
I think, David, it's all about distraction. I really do. Yeah. I think this whole culture thing, the culture wars have always been about distraction. The pointy-headed liberals that they used to talk about back in the 80s and 90s, and then it became, gay people, and then it became trans people, and now, I mean, it's just always got a new outrage, and immigrants were one of the big ones for a while. And, there are policy solutions to all these things. I mean, if you're hysterical about people coming into this country without documentation, all you have to do is undo Reagan's action and make it, start prosecuting employers who hire people who are, here illegally. There are ways to deal with all of these issues. And it just blows my mind that, these guys don't want to deal with any of them. They just want to talk about, oh, my God, cancel culture.
Well, immigration makes us a richer country. It just makes us a richer country.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But that said, it needs to be done properly and appropriately and step by step. And Biden is kind of opening that back up to, Trump just closed the door, which is crazy. But, the excuse that Trump is using is, oh, my God, they're going to take your jobs, although he talked a lot about disease and, all these kind of codes for race, basically. But, if you're concerned about people taking your jobs, then make it so that employers go to jail if they hire somebody who's not an American citizen. That's how it works in pretty much every other advanced democracy in the world.
Yeah, well, it just point like you're always pointing to everybody else or other problems to get away.
Well, that was my point about distraction.
Yeah, distraction.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. David, I got to run, but thank you for the call. Yeah, I think you said it very well. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Stick around. We'll be right back. The hidden history of the Supreme Court tells the story of Nixon and Reagan's committing treason to steal the White House. Hey, we have a new video up over at thomhartmann.com for folks who support our program. It's about a growing movement, oddly enough, on the hard right, on the far fringe extreme right, that says that because Congress, after the Civil War, had not seated senators and members of the House from the former Confederate states and refused to until they changed their state constitutions to eliminate slavery. Because they did not have a say in the writing and the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that ended slavery, gave equal protection under the law to everybody, and guaranteed the right to vote to formerly enslaved people, that because the Confederate states were not represented, these are illegitimate amendments. And oddly, one of the people who's at the forefront of this is Amy Coney Barrett. It's all over at thomhartmann.com. Oh, welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you and Carrie in New Windsor, New York. Hey, Carrie, what's on your mind?
Happy Women's History Month.
There you go, and happy International Women's Day.
That's right, the most important day of the year for women. I mean, right? Yeah, so
well,
I have,
in theory.
What?
In theory, I think Election Day is probably the most important day of the year for women and for everybody else, too. But, if you want to achieve gender equality, we've got to make some big political changes in this country. Did you see where a federal judge just said, no, you can't have the Equal Rights Amendment, even though the 34th or 38th state just ratified it? I forget which state it was. I think it might have been Virginia or Maryland. Some state just ratified it, which hit the threshold. And the Equal Rights Amendment, which says that you may not discriminate against somebody on the basis of sex, it was supposed to go into law. It was supposed to be added to the Constitution. It was supposed to be the latest constitutional amendment because it passed Congress and it passed the three-quarters of the states. And but this federal judge said, no, you can't do it. You waited too long. It's crazy.
No. Are you serious?
Yeah.
I thought it was
happened last week.
Like somebody, it was up to... Last I heard, it was up to one person to write something and sign something, and then it would have.
No, it was one state. Okay. One state had to ratify it, and one final state, and one state did. And my apologies that I don't recall the state. I think it was Virginia or Maryland, but it could have been some other state. And that state did. Their legislature ratified it a couple weeks ago, and it got appealed by Republicans. They took it to a federal judge, and the federal judge said, no, you waited too long. And so now they're deciding whether to take it to the Supreme Court or not. I'm pretty sure it's going to end up before the Supreme Court. But this has been going on for a half a century.
If I can share the gender gap.
Mm-hmm.
So I got this article that says it'll take 257 years for women to have all of the same economic opportunities as men, the new study says. And that was from the World Economic Forum that did this thing called the Global Gender Gap Report. And they've done it every year for a while now, and they didn't even bother to do it this year. Apparently I couldn't find it. But as far as last year, that's up from 202 years, the gap was. Now, this is all countries combined, and this is 4 different factors combined, right?
Right.
But literally we've gone down 55 years. Okay, so the World Economic Forum report 2 years ago was like, yeah, it's going to take 202 years for there to be equality of men and women in the world. And then the next year they're like, yeah, no, it's going to be 257 years because you all suck so bad. And so, like, I don't know. So they gave reasons, but on a more positive note, there's this other article that I wanted to just refer people to, and it's about Iceland, because Iceland's number one. So nowhere in the world, just so you know, everybody, are women equal to men? Nowhere. And Iceland is number one in achieving that, and they're 87% of the way there.
Yeah, and isn't like Norway number 2 behind them?
Something like that, yeah. So as far as the United States, I know people are wondering, before I just end with the referral to this article, the World Economic Forum report was like 151 years is the gap for the United States.
Wow.
North America. And then, so we have this one here. Okay, so this is by globalcitizen.org. It says this is from 2017, the year 2017. It says 7 laws that show why Iceland ranks first for gender equality, and then the subtitle is every country should have these feminist laws. Can I say it again?
Sure.
7 laws that show why Iceland ranks first for gender equality.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Carrie, thank you. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. It's great to hear from you. Dee in New Bern, North Carolina. Hey, Dee, what's on your mind?
I think that Donald Trump and his cohort should be tried for all the crimes, the emoluments, the genocide of persons of color, to increase the possibility that they can win because they've killed off part of the competition. And that's what I think, and I'll take the answer offline.
Well, this goes back to April 7th. That's the magic day. April 7, in the month prior to April 7, Jared Kushner and his merry band and Mike Pence in the White House they had the post office getting ready to send, masks to everybody in America and all this kind of stuff. And then the news came out on April 7th that more black people were dying than white people, and most of the deaths from COVID were happening in blue states. And all of a sudden, the right-wing media and the Trump administration in 1 week did a complete 180. Oh, well, we're not going to do anything about this anymore. That's how bad it is. So I don't think genocide is an inappropriate word. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It begins with you. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabby.com. Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabby.com/Tom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teethhealth.com, code Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouth-watering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Tom. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code Tom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Tom.